Conservation Commission to order, 6:30. This meeting will be in accordance with the regulations of Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021 COVID rules. This will be a hybrid meeting. If the Zoom capability is lost, the meeting will continue. Due to the remote location of the chair, Craig Hannafin, we're recommending that myself, Vice Chair O'Donnell, take over the chair tonight. Craig, if you would like to make a motion for that?
I move that Vice Chair O'Donnell assume the chairmanship tonight. May I have a second?
Second.
Second is Joe. Be a roll call vote. Craig?
Craig Hannafin, yes?
Rick?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Bill?
Okay, 100%, 6-0. Gotcha. All right, take over, Mr. Chair.
Okay, have you got any minutes for us?
I do. Do you want to open the hearing, since it has happened? Did we actually open the hearing?
I thought
We didn't do a vote, though.
Oh,
You
okay.
didn't do a vote. What you did is you transferred to you, which is fine.
Okay. Now we'll vote to open the meeting. We'll get a second?
Second?
I'm giving it to Susan.
Roll call vote again. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Rick?
Rick, yes.
Craig?
Yes?
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, so we got that 6:00. We're started. I do have minutes. I got comments from Susan and Joe. I incorporated those in, so these will be edited minutes. Joe caught a snag on page 3. I separated an A and an N from the word "and." Good pickup.
Wow.
So there you go. It's an edited version.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the edited version of the, what was the date?
It's the February 1st meeting minutes.
February 1st minutes. Do I get a second?
Second.
Joe,
Joe?
roll
Roll
call.
call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Art, yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick?
Rick, yes.
And Craig?
Craig, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
6:00. Going
Unanimous.
smoothly. All right. Okay.
And we have 7 continuations, is that correct, Bill?
Now have 7 continuations. Several of them are new. If you were to want to get those done early or read them, Bert, I could read them if you like. Your call.
Why don't we can do that later, right?
Yeah, but you want me to just list them out so people who are waiting know what's going on?
Yes, we want to list the continued hearings.
Shall I do that or shall you do that?
I can do it.
Very good.
We have Gomes, 76 Carolyn Circle, Trokey, 12 Branch Street, Speakman, 274 Foster Avenue, 6 Birch Realty Trust, 0 Littles Lane, Dixon, 56 Hartford Road, and McLaughlin, 3 Trounce Island, Town of Marshfield, Wrexham and Winslow Beaches, Bay Ave. Actually, that's not the one that's continuing. is it, Bill?
432 Ocean through 11 Wrexham
Okay,
Road.
yes, it's
Region 3.
the infrastructure repairs.
Correct. So announced list, okay.
Okay, we've got the continuations, so we should move on to business items.
Right, now I don't actually have your write-ups, but you did receive all of your information. If it pleases the chair, I could make motions to make this go as smoothly as possible.
Okay, let's move this along as quickly as possible.
All right. Do you want to announce or do I announce?
Go ahead.
Okay. So first one was Cut River Bridge Street. Do we have anybody here from Mass DOT or online? All right. All right, I've been working with Mass DOT, Peter Benkart and David Goldstein. There's an off-site project that is going on from Cohasset. There was some damage at the Atlantic Street Bridge. I think you got the information by email, but for the public purpose, I want to let you know what's going on. They were seeking out a off-site project, and I thought of the Beat Street Bridge because we'd already had a number of commissioners out there when it first came through to us. So I thought it was a good fix and a good fit. They attempted to put in intertidal grasses, Spartina altiniflora, and I think it was seashore grass is what they call it, and the altiniflora failed. So they're trying to find a second location, and there's an upland, it's a wetland salt marsh environment trapped in between Naomi Road and Marion. And long story short, they want to remove some asphalt and then plant the grasses as an alternative to what they've been facing. They think this will work better. I think the only thing to be concerned about is no heavy equipment in this fragile environment. And, so he's got to work by hand if they want to do this. They also need permission because it's additionally town-owned conservation land, so they would need that as well. So I think it's kind of a two-motion thing. If you're appealed by, A, the work in the area, and then B, with the permission in the conservation land. It's just up to the commission.
Any discussion?
No, no.
No. I think it's fine.
Okay,
Very small area.
All right, I'll make you a motion then. The commission approves the Mass DOT to access the town-owned land located in the Cut River region of Naomi Street. I don't have the parcel number in front of me, I apologize. And to remove asphalt and plant salt-tolerant grass in the locations, with special conditions that there will be no heavy equipment, wheeled or tracked, used on the salt marsh.
A second?
Well, who's making that? I'm making that for Bert? Okay.
Okay, that's the motion. Susan has seconded.
Susan, second.
Roll call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Yes.
Joe, yes.
Rick, yes.
Craig?
Craig, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes. It's unanimous, Bill.
Okay, we're done with that one. Great, thank you. All right, I'll report to them. Approved. Okay, no heavy equipment. All right, so the next one is a portion of the Region 2 seawall project at Brant Rock. And it's 54 and 60R Ocean Street, and then a larger section, about 25 linear feet of the seawall that got storm damaged. These were above and beyond what was on the permit. The permit specifically states that if there's a change of any kind, that they would come back, notify the commission, and take appropriate action to either get this approved as a de minimis activity or as a request for amended order conditions. The work is pretty minor. I don't think in the past there's been permitting done on it. It's just gotten done. And these guys are playing by the rules, and we want to thank them for that. And just, I think that's it for in a nutshell. You saw the email I sent to you.
Okay,
You want me to make a motion?
go ahead.
Okay, the commission will approve, as a de minimis activity, the repairs of the stairs at 50 and 60R Ocean Street, and also the additional 25 linear feet in the vicinity of 8 Ocean Street. That's Bert's motion.
I will second.
JR?
Okay, roll call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Yes.
Joe, yes.
Rick, yes.
Craig?
Craig, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, roll call passes 6-0. Okay, 2 for 2. 815 Ocean, I think Tom Kerbo is here, the homeowner. He has asked for some minor changes. After looking at the cost of the wood piles, he would like to go with helical piles. This is an environment where, he would be using, required to use open pile foundation. This is a good alternative. He's comfortable with them lasting long-term. Initially, he was thinking about the elevation changes, but he's going to keep it the way it is, so I would like to scratch that out. This was exclusively, if I'm not mistaken, Tom, are you here? Tom is here and present. If the commission wants to talk to Tom, he's here for answers and questions. He'll keep the elevation the way it is, and he'd just like to go to helical piles.
Okay. Any comments from commissioners?
On here.
I think we're fine with it, Tom.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion. Oh, you made the motion, right, Bill?
I'll make it for you if you want. I just happen to have the information handy, so I could do it for you, or you go ahead and do it. Okay?
Go ahead.
All right. So the commission approves the de minimis activity for the modification of 815 Ocean Street, SE 422962, for changing the pile foundation wooden piles to helical piles. And that is the motion.
Second.
Second is Art. Roll call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Art, yes.
Joe, yes.
Rick, yes.
And Craig?
Craig, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Great,
Unanimous, Bill.
6-0. Good roll. All right. The next one is the DSA project. There's soil sampling in 9 locations within, some of them within the parking area and some of them beyond that. I see we have the town engineer here. I believe we may have the harbor master present too. I can talk to this as well. There may be some residents who want to talk, but I will remind them that you have to get permission from the chair, and this is a business section, so usually the public doesn't get to speak unless the chair recognizes, so that's the process.
Okay, Bill, let's lay it out.
Yeah, good. Oh, okay.
Do you want me to go?
I was gonna suggest either Mike or Rod kind of give that, and I will leave the room momentarily to grab some technical things.
Okay, Rod, you want to give a very quick description?
I will. So there are 9 locations in the proposed parking area. This plan was floated by the Board of Public Works, and they asked if I could get the soil sampled, and they were interested in odor control, if this work actually moved forward, or they were interested in what if there's any contaminant levels that would be of concern. So we contacted our LSP, and our LSP provided a sampling plan, and some of the sampling locations are in the buffer zone. So we're asking for us to follow through with this sampling. We'll be using an excavator on top of the dredged spoils, digging down in excess of 10 feet, taking samples as we go down, and that's pretty much it. So it's more of a physical aspect of working within the buffer zone to take these samples.
Okay, thank you. Discussion among the commissioners?
No problem.
No problem.
No, good.
There have been some questions for the public. How many people from the public are interested in this matter? I see 2 hands. 3?
4.
4. Okay. Is there a positive or negative feeling for this? Or are you just looking for more information?
Both. There's a negative and there's a more information.
Okay, we don't typically take public input on business items, but in this case, I think Mr. Pesovich has some background on this. I'd like you to make a quick comment.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chairman, Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. We're at a bit of a disadvantage because we don't have a map showing where these sampling locations are. And we don't have the sampling plan, which apparently exists. So that's unfortunate. It would have been nice if we could look at it. I am concerned that if a homeowner wants to put a fence in and has to dig fence posts, normally that's an issue with conservation if you're in a floodplain or in a buffer zone. So I don't know why, this is a lot more than fence posts. Also, there's been no discussion of what you're gonna do. 10 feet down with a backhoe. I don't know what the size of the scoop is on the backhoe, but you're talking yards and yards and yards of material that's gonna be floating around. I don't know how they're gonna contain it. It doesn't sound like a de minimis to me. It sounds like a real sizable impact. So wherever you would do this, it would be a sizable impact.
Okay. Rod, were you able to hear that?
I got some of it, in terms of the excavator. I mean, we would be excavating, the width of a bucket, more or less. They would be, they'd have some sort of a sampling device that they could reach down. They'll be sampling every, at intervals, I think 5-foot intervals. I can't remember exactly what, but no, every 3 feet. They'll be grabbing the soil and using a meter to detect volatiles, and then they'll be recording that information as they go down, and then they'll be sampling accordingly based on what they find. But in terms of the amount of material coming out of a hole, that's a huge area, and it might amount to a pile that might be I don't know. don't know, 8 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet, something like that, in terms of volume. But it will be put right back for the most part. So it's, 9 different locations. We're trying to get a comprehensive look at what's in there, and it was directed by our Board of Public Works.
Okay, thank you, Rod.
Could I note, Bert, that I believe only 3 of the borehole sites are under conservation jurisdictional area?
Okay,
Is
and
that correct, Bill?
Yeah, it is. A vast majority of the DSA is not in conservation jurisdictional boundaries based on the plan that we got with 2929. I can show it if you want, but we've done it enough.
okay, and these sampling areas are all within the previously permitted work area for the parking lot, correct?
So 6 of them are, I believe, in the parking lot area. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike and Rod, I'm not looking at the plan right now. And 3 of them are out. They're in the buffer zone, they're not in the resource area. Hold on, okay? They're in the buffer zone, they're not in the resource area. And so they're exempt under the 310 CMR 10.05. I could pull up the particular exemption. When you have samples for design or experimental purposes that are temporary in nature like this, then they are exempt. So that's another reason that this potentially would be eligible for a de minimis activity. If I need to call it the correct one, I'll just borrow Susan's book real quick here and I'll get that well. I played the way I gave. 10.02.
Yes, in this case, the commissioners were satisfied with this activity being de minimis. I believe this just gives further information for the
Yeah.
people that were concerned about the work in this area. So I'd like to make the motion to,
Sir, you have a,
typically, we don't take public comments on business items. I'm going to take one more comment, and then we're going to move ahead with our meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Your name and address, please?
Oh, Diane Jordan, 15
Wait,
Bancroft.
one more time. Diane,
Diane Jordan, 15 Bancroft.
thank you.
So it's actually 2 parts to my question, but I'll make it quick. You said the previously permitted parking lot, but that permit wasn't approved.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, by
Concom-
conservation it was.
Concom it
But
was.
not by, by conservation. Okay.
It's
Correct.
still,
But not by the zoning.
it was pulled by zoning. It hasn't been voted on one way or another with
Okay.
zoning.
That, and then the other question is, if this area is not supposed to be like excavated, doesn't this request have to go through the zoning board?
No.
Okay. Is there a reason why it doesn't have to be?
That's not their jurisdiction, it's structures and such, these kind of things. Andrew came up recently and spoke to me, I don't know if he's here present or not, and a number of the things that are coming up, like the cuttings and so on, it's just not his jurisdiction. He mentioned that to my administrative clerk and me, and I don't want to say where his jurisdiction ends or begins. There's always an overlap between conservation and with the building department, but something like this, typically, this wouldn't be his realm. So these are temporary test samples. They meet the criteria of 310 CMR 10.022B 2G, and I'll read it for the record. Activities are temporary in nature, have negligible impacts, and are necessary for planning and design purposes, i.e., or e.g., installation of monitoring wells, exploratory boring, sediment sampling, and surveying and percolation tests for septic systems, provided that resource areas are not crossed for site access. So we're not in any of that. So these are really eligible for that exemption. These also meet the questions that many of the residents have been asking for as well, with regards to sampling. They've been wanting to know what is the condition of the sample. So this is in fulfillment of that just as much as anything else.
And are they gonna, how will we know what they find?
There'll be a report, I would imagine. Conservation will get that. We're an open book. You can come down and sign out our files. We'll have your name on on a clipboard, sign it out the file, and you can look at it when that happens. I don't know when we're gonna get it, but we'll probably get it at some point.
And they'll make some kind of notice when you have it? So that
We don't typically do that because we're on the front end of handling most of the permits. The contamination is handled by others, typically the DEP and DPW, some other entity. We don't get involved in that. We have prevention of pollution, but again, we don't handle that. We don't handle underground storage tanks either. That's the fire department. But, you know, we have a fine tune, we have an overlap there. So the sampling is not our realm. We'll get the report if we get the report. They usually give it to us, but we'll see what happens.
So I'd like to make the motion that the soil sampling within the dredge spoils area
Okay?
be considered de
No,
minimis
no,
activity.
sorry, the chair is saying he's taking the two, and he wants to make a motion.
Second is Art. Roll call vote. Susan?
Yes.
Art?
Yes, all right, yes.
Joe, yes.
Joe? Rick? Greg?
Greg, yes?
And Bert
Yes.
O'Donnell, yes.
Roll call vote, so that's a
Unanimous.
6-0. Okay, good enough. All right, thank you, Joe, and
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Rod.
Diane, for the comments.
She really wanted to ask a question behind me, though.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's breaking protocol with the chair's wishes to move this along, so the next one's 2160.
As I mentioned several times, business items do not typically take public comments. We did it as a courtesy, so we've got a long meeting. We need to move along. Thank you.
All right, so next item is 2160. Bert?
Go ahead, Bill.
All right, this is a house that's in an unsafe structure. We've been talking with the property owner for a while about this one. Last year, a temporary fence was put up. It's still in rough shape. Notice of intent hasn't been filed. And the building inspector issued an order. Can you guys do us a favor, please? Take it outside. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Murphy, please. So, long story short, this has collapsed, is in a state of collapse, and the building commissioner issued an order to remove. And because of that, there was an emergency condition. He asked the town, the Concom for a emergency certification. At the time, we did not, the commission did not find it to be that way. The appeal then had to go to the state. The state did find it. Town council then provided a new opinion, and we're now pursuing an emergency certification form that I was instructed to, or directed to issue, which has already been issued. And now it's just a matter of ratifying that emergency certification form. I would
Okay,
say
so
that
that's the
probably,
motion?
the motion is, the commission votes to ratify the emergency certification form for 2160 Ocean Street, SE 42-2160, for the demolition of an unsafe structure in conformance with the building commissioner's order to remove letter and the Mass DEP notification of an emergency certification and town council's advice to issue an emergency certification.
Any discussion from commissioners?
Town council was supportive of that?
At first, no, but then yes.
Okay. Any idea why he changed his mind?
Well, it's a tough one, you know? I would say that, you know, Craig and I spoke to Mass DEP, and we told them about the background, and Mass DEP found that per their criteria, they were satisfied. So we had said no, and then he said yes, and town council said maybe we should do that. So that's what we did.
Okay.
So we made the
It-
motion.
Rick,
Yes.
It sort of, it got gummed up with the last meeting being canceled. We did not have the 48 hours to declare an emergency notification that would be required by the Conservation Commission. And Attorney Galvin was of the opinion that the building had been falling down for 20 years, so why was it an emergency then? But Commissioner Stewart took it to, Building Commissioner Stewart just went straight to DEP and they issued the authorization.
Okay. Thanks,
In
Greg.
some ways, I believe, once he's issued the order to remove, he has to get an emergency cert, or proper permitting. He knew that he was in riverfront, the property's in riverfront, it's in the buffer zone to the wetlands. There is flood zone on the property, but not the limit of work for the structure. So these things were all in play, and, you know, he
Yeah.
knew that he
Any-
needed a permit, and emergency cert was an avenue, so.
Any further discussion?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Bill made the motion. Have we got a second?
Second.
Second,
I got Joe on that, sorry, Craig.
Okay, we'll take Joe as a second.
Yes.
And roll call vote, Susan?
Susan, yes.
All right,
Art, yes. Joe, yes.
Rick,
Rick?
yes.
and Craig?
Craig, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell,
Craig,
yes. Unanimous, Bill?
I got it all, yeah, all right. The next one is 88 Nantasket Street. This is the one where the commission had voted at, I believe, the February 1st meeting to require a wetland delineation and conservation markers, and they had waived the as-built. And Attorney Sorgi, are you here?
I am.
Okay, great. Attorney Sorgi, well, nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry I missed the last hearing. I didn't think it would get here in 2 days, so I didn't show up. Anyway, this is a 33-year-old order. We're trying to recreate what was required 33 years ago in order to get a certificate of compliance 33 years ago. The order would have required a wetlands delineation and markers, and in order to get a certificate, nobody ever applied for it, so we don't know whether they did it. Ex post factos, we have a lot of these. I'm on the Hull Conservation Commission. We have a lot of these issues. We need to document the file in 1988 to show that there was some sort of reliance that we could go on. In 2005, there was a notice of intent and an order of conditions issued with the special conditions that a wetlands delineation be done, marked, and approved by the board before a certificate of compliance would be issued. That certificate of compliance was issued, which means in 2005, the property was in compliance with the 1988 order. So by simply copying the paperwork from the 2005 order and marking your 1988 file with it, you've now documented the file sufficiently to show that as of 2005, the property was in wetlands compliance, markered and approved. So anything after that would be unnecessary. And I don't know whether you knew that when you talked the last time. I found this on the record, and Bill helped me dig it out, and which means that going beyond 2005 is unnecessary.
Okay, thank you. Bill, your
So I would
comments?
counter this way. I think the commission was being kind in waiving the as-built, which is part of the March 18, 2021 revised regulations. So now all these require as-bills. And to Attorney Sergey's point, and he knows it as well in Hull as we know it, you have to have some flexibility with those as-built. So the as-built was waived, which would have been very onerous on Mr. Ciancio. I had spoken to him one-on-one, and I also spoken to Attorney Sorgi. So the commission's already waived the most onerous part of it, and they simply want conservation markers up and a wetland delineation. Now, I understand that was sort of started, but I don't know where it is. It's not my place. I'm just simply reporting. And I would think that just to get the wetland delineation and 3 conservation markers posted would really be the right thing to do, and just close it. That's personally my take.
Now, when we spoke about this last meeting, we circulated a drawing that basically had no wetlands, showed the structure, but didn't show the lot or anything.
Yeah?
That 2005 filing, didn't that have a site plan with a
So
wetland?
what happened, to your point, Bert, was they had given us the as-built for the septic system only. And at first, our early conversations, because this is a gray mass, you kind of wade your way through it. And long story short, he was under the assumption it was simply a septic system. So why doesn't the septic system as-built work? Okay, that's good logic, but it turned out from the minutes, you could clearly see it was the entire house. So that changed the equation. His argument is not invalid, it's just that it doesn't meet the criteria of the current regulations. The commission's already waived the as-built, you could revoke that, and now they have to give an as-built, and that's tied to the regulations, and there's no dispute on that. But you're sort of in a gray area, so we're just asking, the commission's just asking for the conservation markers, excuse me, and the wetland delineation.
Except we're dealing with a 33-year-old
have one
daughter.
of those,
We're dealing with compliance with a 33-year-old daughter, and we already have a wetland
Yes.
delineation, which had to have been done in 2005, which relates back to 1988. Anything after that is unnecessary.
I agree with some of the logic he's presenting. I'm trying to get this as-built pulled up here, see if I can share it.
I've actually passed it around to the commissioners,
have it.
Bill.
I'm having a bad time
So I
figuring
think
out
all
how
the
to share.
commissioners have seen it now. Based on this, your thoughts?
Just really need to close the technicality on an owner who wasn't even there at the time.
So the recommendation is delineate the wetlands and a few 2 or 3 markers.
Yeah. But I think what the attorney is saying is that we have a wetland delineation here on an as-built that was acceptable to the commission in 2005.
Correct, Bert, and actually, that satisfies the requirements for the 1988 certificate of compliance. And if you don't issue that order, you're putting a new condition on presently for something that was already satisfied in 2005, and you can't do that. I mean, you have the discretion to just document the file and issue the certificate of compliance. You shouldn't put it on this owner. It's not fair.
Well, the only downfall to that would be that if the cutting continues, which we have seen, we have 62 Chandler tonight, and it's happening. We've had stuff all over town, so, you know, I'm not trying to put the
I
commission.
know that, but that doesn't relate to the
I'm talking right now, Attorney Stricker, sorry.
So are we asking to come back with a final, an as-built and final from a surveyor?
No,
Bring it
as-built.
back to us?
No,
What I'm asking-
we waived the as-built. We asked for conservation markers. I believe that's all we need now, Bill, right? Because
Just started
we
to
said,
make
we
sense.
said, show us some plan, and to me, we have a plan here.
So why can't we just say, throw in 3 conservation markers and close it?
Cost my guy money, something that we didn't do. I mean, it's 33 years old.
Yeah,
If
they're-
you
they're-
don't like what's going on there now, you issue a certificate of, you issue a violation notice to the current owner, not somebody 33 years ago.
So we typically don't like to issue enforcement orders. You have
Well,
to.
I know that. We don't either.
So when I came here, I first said, you have to force me to enforce, and it took over a year. There was plenty of opportunities. So, the commission's just trying to be reasonable, Attorney Serby, that's it.
Yeah, I agree, but reasonable, this is just 33
This, we waived, the commission, excuse me, I shouldn't say we, the commission kindly waived the cost of the as-built. We know that's gonna cost a lot more, and it's gonna take 4 to 6 weeks. The conservation markers and the wetland delineation can be done in 48 hours.
No, I believe we have
We
a
have a
wetlands
wetlands
line.
delineation. It's right here.
Okay, they wanna waive the wetland line, that's fine, that's the commission's call. They can do what they want.
Conservation markers.
Yeah.
We just need 3 conservation markers.
I'm also good with that. I work for the commission.
Okay, is that the consensus?
I'm good with it.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion that 3 conservation markers be put along the wetland line, using the previous site plan.
I would say the vegetated line to make it simple, because you just want somebody to be able to go and drive a hole, put it in a 4x4. We have certain standards, Attorney Sergey will send it to you, and it needs to be 30 to 40 inches out of the ground so they get it. So that's typically what we require in Marshfield.
So now you just want the markers
Yes.
off the old plan.
No, you can just use the vegetated line. I can go if they have a problem, and I'll be here, and
Brad
here.
Holmes was gonna do it.
Well, that's what I told him, you were making efforts, that's what I wanted him to know it.
We don't believe you have to do a full
We don't believe you
wetlands
have to do that.
delineation.
You convinced them.
You've got this plan, which we didn't know about this, we weren't aware of this last meeting.
So who's gonna bang them in? Anybody can bang them in?
Yeah, the new people, or Sancio, or whoever. I know, I get you, but I'm just saying, somebody.
They want me to meet you there and bang them in the ground. I can do that.
You.
If you allow that, I'll do it.
Well, you can't trespass, we have to get this figured out, so.
There's no special requirement.
So you have,
I don't represent the new owner.
but you're in the middle of
I'm in the
this,
middle of it.
the escrow. I think the final part is, the Conservation Commission wants 3 markers. They get used 4x4, rot resistant, pressure treated or equivalent. They're 30 to 40 inches out of the ground, and we'll give you the disc. I'll give it to you right now. You can walk out of here with that, and that's usually what happens in Marshfield.
Okay, he's gonna do it.
I would.
Do you know this
I
guy?
would- I would do the following, Mr. Sorgi. Attorney Sorgi, I would just, all rights on private property and stuff like that, I'd just keep it within your circle. Nothing wrong with Mr. Murphy. He's a fine individual, but I'm just saying you should work within your own circle.
I see a hand in the rear. Please identify yourself.
Sure, Mary Murphy, Ocean Street. I'm just curious why the marker would go on the vegetation line when we know that, I think, Bill, you've called that sort of species invasive. And it
That's
seems
not
like you might be
invasive over there.
giving this gentleman and the property owner less property by putting it on the vegetation line.
So,
Yeah, that's
That's not
outside
all
of the
the facts,
scope of
Mary.
what we're talking about. Bill has made the motion.
Just curious
the,
how it works for somebody.
I can answer that in 30 seconds.
3 conservation markers, and that's it.
3 conservation markers,
Issue
on- and
the
then
COC.
a la Marshfield standards, which I can send to Attorney Sorgi, so we get everything. I'll give him the 3 markers right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So we got that was the motion, 3 conservation markers. Have we got a second?
Second.
Second, Joe. Roll call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Art, yes.
Joe,
Joe?
yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Craig?
Craig, yes.
And
6-0,
Bert, yes.
thank you, very well done. Okay, I'll get you those right now. I don't know how you want to do this, Bert. Do you want to read off the, all these scheduled continuations? All the greens need to be read, including the catch-up one there for the 0 littles.
We've already announced the continuations. Why don't we get into the hearings? And then at the close of the hearings we have for tonight,
Very good.
we'll do all the new ones. So in compliance with the regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Code of Town of Marshfield,
I think it's me.
Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held for the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, February 15th, 2022, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Thomas and Patricia Gill, 52 Jackson Street. And the hearing officer is Rick.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bert. So this is a new RDA that we had asked for in one of the earlier meetings, essentially to fill the crawl space in order to make this property FEMA floodplain compliant. The resource areas are Barrier Beach, coastal dune, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. And I can see the taxes are paid. Somebody here that wants to give a quick description to the remaining work to be done to complete the project?
Would that be us?
Yes, sir. Who's,
Yeah, well, yeah, so.
Go ahead,
what we need
go ahead,
to
Mr.
do
Gill.
to be- Yeah, so what we need to do to become FEMA compliant and building code compliant is to add fill to our crawl space and flood vents to the foundation. I believe that is the extent of what we need to do as it pertains to this issue.
okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Gill. Bill, do you have comments on the project?
Mr. Gill, I want to thank you very much for your patience. It's been something else to watch what you've been going through, and I appreciate your first RDA on this type of permitting. And hopefully, if someone comes up again, we can proactively move you through the system at lightning speed instead of what you went through.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, questions, discussion?
Not
No.
here.
Everybody good? I think we're finally
We're very
close to
familiar
crossing the
with
finish line, Mr. Gill.
Close?
Yes, yes. Anybody from the public wish to comment, ask a question? Okay, hearing none. I'll make a motion that we close the hearing with special conditions and find a positive number 5 for the bylaw and a negative number 2. Bill, could you review the special conditions,
Right, the
please?
special conditions will be shown on the letter as this is in the resource area. Ensure best management practices and building codes are followed. Before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits. Use clean compatible fill as per chapter 505-306.4. See the Conservation Administrator for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities. That's it.
Okay. So I make a motion, we close the hearing with those special conditions. Do I have a second?
Second?
Joe?
Second is Joe. Roll call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Arthur?
Art, yes.
Vice Chair Burt?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Craig?
Craig Hanafin, yes.
And Rick Carver, yes. Mr. Gill, proceed to fill.
Yes. I can, okay, I'm sorry, I can fill, is that what you said?
I said, Mr. Gill, proceed to do the fill.
Okay. If somebody, thank you, if somebody could just kind of explain to me what clean compatible fill is. So,
You would use sand or, dirt that's porous. When I was talking to DEP about this particular item, the circuit rider, he was most interested on whether or not, it was going to be pervious versus impervious materials. So compatible would be, it could be construction grade, I suppose, but it's got to have some porosity, and that's the component there. And, ideally it's sand, but sometimes the costs are an issue there. And if you have any questions after you go to buy it, let us know and we'll look into that some further with you, okay? And we'll find an answer for you that will be compatible with our regulations.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And we'll send you your determination of applicability as soon as possible.
Thanks.
Okay, we're all set.
So there's some background noise going on. It's starting to be aggravating there, so
Okay,
not sure who's doing that to us. Okay, you gotta get rid of that fan. Sorry, nobody told me.
Green, yeah.
sounds good now.
Okay, good enough.
So we'll move along to 176.
Okay, 176 presidential.
In compliance with the regulations of Marshfield General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Regulations, public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, February 15th, 2022, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Louis Masiglia, 176 Presidential Circle, Marshfield, Mass. Determine whether work removing hazardous trees is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. And Art is the hearing officer.
Yes, taxes have been paid on second of February. And this is a removal of a tree that seems to be a hazard, or it doesn't look to be much of a hazard right now, but it will be a hazard, it looks like. There's someone here to present this. Yes, sir.
Louis Massaglia.
Right ahead.
I noticed it, I think it was in December, we had a rainstorm and a windstorm, and half the root ball is picking up my grass, and the other half is in the marsh. Before it falls on my house,
Got
I'd
it.
like to have it gone.
I understand. I really don't have much of a concern with this. I just have a comment, but first I'd like to get Bill's comments.
Yeah, okay, first off, Mr. Marsiglia came to me, very proactive. You couldn't ask for anything better than that, okay? The tree is in the wetlands, and yes, it's definitely got damp roots. I'm not sure it's leaning as far as we're saying, but it's going to eventually go over, and it's the only tree in the area, so it's going to get wind damage. It's going to be a problem. I would suggest that he could take the tree, but leave the roots in the ground. The reason we want to leave the roots in the ground is that helps with flood control, storm damage prevention, and also be a food source for creatures and so on. So you're getting wildlife values out of that as well. So I would recommend those things. I also talked to Mr. Marsiglia. I said, look, you're in the wetlands. He's also partially in the natural heritage, so should be made aware of that. Mr. Marsiglia, your backyard's heavily overlapped by the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. They're a separate jurisdiction. And I was thinking that it would probably be appropriate to put in 3 conservation markers. Mr. Marsiglia did not have a problem with that either.
Very good. My only comment, and this is just asking whether you would agree to do this, would be when you cut it off, if we approve, which I think we will, but if you cut it off, you could leave like 3 feet out so branches could come back in again.
3 feet off the ground?
Yeah. That's what I'm asking, if you have an objection to that. It would leave the tree viable, in my opinion, and would
I
get
don't
some
think it's
regrowth.
viable.
You did.
It's a big tree. I don't think you're gonna get any growth out of it.
Every tree I've cut that's deciduous comes back if you do that. so.
Split trunk, so we'd have to leave the two trunks.
No, I'm just talking about cutting it off.
about the tree coming back, he's talking about sprouts coming out.
Sprouts coming back out from it. So it's not
That's what it
completely
takes,
dead.
that's what it takes.
Is the root ball humped up in the lawn?
Yes, it is.
Little,
I mean, how
Well,
much of a bump is the root ball creating?
Above ground.
it's a good bump.
It's starting, Rick. It's like, it's gonna be where he says eventually, but it's not quite there, so it's starting. Well, I hear what you're saying. Normally the forest, I'd want it 18 feet high and get some habitat, but this is the back 40 of their yard, and it's pretty open back there. And I don't think we wanna get into plantings here or anything like that. This is just, eventually that tree will be an issue. It's gonna go one way or the other.
yeah, I'm not gonna belabor this, 'cause it doesn't seem like I have a lot of support here, but what I'm, what I'm saying is, the tree will be gone, the big tree will be gone, cut it off, so there will be a stump left, the root ball's gonna be there, there'll be a stump left, and there will be new growth that will come out of this. Will come out.
Why don't we say leave the
Eventually.
roots and allow rejuvenation? And he can cut it to the ground, and if it grows up, then it rejuvenates.
Okay, so,
Like you said, leave the roots, right?
we're leaving the roots, but if you cut it all the way down below, it's not coming back, so.
It is,
all right.
if he cuts it below grade, it won't grow, but if he keeps it above grade, it might. You want it like a couple inches above grade, and then maybe it will rejuvenate?
No, I'm not gonna fight it out, because
Okay, all right. No,
my suggestion is, if we want it to come back, you leave 2 or 3 feet above the stump, and it will come back. But if we don't want it to come back, cut her off, leave the root ball, it's not gonna erode out.
It's good advice, something I'm learning right now, too. Can the commission help out the art so that they get some feedback now?
Yeah, I agree that
There's a lot of trees that are growing in the marsh.
What's your name, ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy Masiglia.
Oh, how are you? Okay. And you're at 176 Presidential also?
Yes.
All right, very good. Thank you, Nancy.
There's a lot of saplings that are growing in the marsh that are in water. You know, they have a little mud island and then it's water all around them. So those are growing.
I understand, that's fine. If we want the tree, if we want the root balls to stay there and we want it killed, cut her off the ground, leave the root ball. If we want some stuff to come back up, gotta cut it a little higher. That's all I'm saying. And so if it's up to the commission, if they want the tree to start to come back out.
In the middle of the lawn, on the edge of the lawn, in the
middle.
backyard?
It's the dead
It's right
center.
on the edge of the lawn.
In the
So
back.
it's kind of the lawn and then behind it is
There's
marsh.
not much of a lawn,
Yeah,
but
it's all tree root.
it's right in the middle of it.
I'd hate to lose the tree. I don't want to lose it because it's the only tree we have.
Right, I think we're gonna agree that you're gonna take it out.
Yeah,
The
but
question is whether we want stuff to come back out, but that'll be another, anyone else, any other commissioners?
If it was
Could
my,
I just say, you have some nice birdhouses on that tree.
That's all right.
Why don't you
Yes.
cut it above the houses?
No birds on it.
What?
We have 33 pages here.
What does that mean?
Oh, I mean,
I think if it was my yard, I would want to cut it to the ground so my grandkids don't trip over it, or somebody
well,
doesn't trip over it.
that's yes.
It becomes a hazard, I think.
All right, Susan?
I just agree that because it's a tight spot, I went by your house, it is a very small spot, I would understand that you would want to take it down to the ground, given that it's coming up, and if it does come back, it may be problematic, although you might have some lower branches, but just given the tightness of the situation, I would,
Yes.
that's my only thought is because of the circumstances, that's all.
Anyone else? Joe?
I'm in the middle on both of these.
That's okay. Well, we're gonna take care of Rick's grandkids, so they don't trip.
here's your tree.
Anyone from the audience? All right, so, someone's background noise, so no one from the audience, so I'm gonna make a motion then, we cut this baby down and it won't come back, you leave the root ball, and, we have the 3 permanent conservation markers, And I'm making a motion to vote to issue a positive determination 5 for the bylaw and a negative determination 2 with special conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
We got it. All in favor? Susan, we have to do a roll call. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Bert?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Joe, yes.
Rick,
Rick,
yes?
yes. Craig?
Craig, yes.
Craig, yes. And Art's, yes.
Okay, very good.
Is that it? Is that the
Down to
tree?
the ground.
Yes.
All right, leave the roots, and I will send you a letter so you have everything there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, super.
Okay, moving on.
I am recusing on the next hearing.
Okay.
Okay, Craig.
Is that your only tree?
Yes.
It's a shame.
In the
Oh,
back,
that's
yeah.
what I
In
made
compliance with the
Susan.
regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held, Marshfield Conservation Commission, Tuesday, February 15th, 2022, to consider a request for determination of applicability filed by Thomas and Mary Dagan, P.O. Box 234, Marshfield, to determine whether work depicted on the plans is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. Hearing officer is Susan.
I can see from the file that the administrative requirements are fulfilled. So this is an RDA for the removal of a hazardous tree limb within a bordering vegetated wetland and the installation of an underground sewer utility line to service an existing swimming pool within 100 feet of a bordering vegetated wetland and within the 200 feet riverfront. So the resource areas are riverfront, salt marsh, flood zone AE, and there are no natural heritage endangered species designations. Brad, I did see he was here.
It's Cameron. He's standing in for Brad. He's the upper right-hand corner up there.
Oh, okay. Cameron, you're presenting for Brad Holmes for this?
Yes, good evening, Commissioner. This is Cameron Larson with ECR, so I'll be representing the applicant tonight.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Again, this is Cameron Larson with ECR, representing Thomas and Mary Deegan to present the RDA for 1327 Union Street. If it's okay with the commission, I'd like to share my screen. I can pull up the site plan. Might be the easiest way to go about this.
Yeah, give me a second. You're gonna have to let me go do this differently here. I am new at it. So what are you gonna share, Cameron? I'm gonna see if I can find it on our system here. What we
Yep, just the plan accompanying the RDA. It's
right.
the aerial EPS plan.
All right.
I guess while Bill's looking at that, I can just give the commission a brief overview. As was mentioned, there's two parts to this proposed project. There is the installation of an underground sewer line from the rear, that'll be located to the rear of the house and service an existing pool area, pool house on the site. It's all within a landscape and lawn area. It'll be installed with a ditch witch or similar machine. The trench will be dug, the sewer line installed, then backfilled, and the area will be restored to lawn. The second part of this is the removal of a hazard limb on a red maple down by the dock on this property. Thank you, Bill.
Sorry.
The removal of the limb is on a maple that overhangs a dock. It's severely decayed and poses a risk to the new dock on the property. At this point, the limb has actually been removed. There was a miscommunication on whether that was okay or not. So we're looking to, permit the removal of that through this application, but it has been removed. It was removed by hand. It was just the limb. The red maple itself remains. There was no disturbance to the wetland or vicinity of that tree. And that limb was, disposed of off-site. So the two parts of this project are the sewer line and the limb removal. We will utilize erosion controls during the installation of the utility. And again, once that's completed, the site will be stabilized. So if the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Bill, administrative comments?
Well, we were out there, Bert and Susan, Karen, and I, and we were with Brad and did notice the tree limb was missing and decided that we've all been down the road a little bit too much on this property and just asked that you remind them that they need to get permits in certain areas, that's all. And so on your own recognizance on that. There was also, I don't think there's any issues with the utility line because it's in a lawned area. I think we're all okay with that, but when we were walking around, there's a black corrugated pipe coming out of from the pool. It's discharging into the fringe of the wooded area. And we asked Brad to get us an answer. Cameron, do you happen to have an answer to that, or should we continue to be reaching out to Brad?
I don't have an answer regarding that pipe. I'm unaware of that pipe.
Okay.
I suspect it's some kind of, discharge from the pool, I guess. Or is there a concern of that pipe at this point, or?
I would say, Susan, you've talked to me about.
We just would like to know what it is, where it's coming from. I would imagine, I don't know if it would be coming from the pool this time of year, because it's not open, but but we just need to know the source of that water, what it is. It was clear water coming out, pool is closed, it's generally when you lower pools or you're back flushing that it becomes an issue, because it's usually got chemicals and chlorine in it. So that would be our concern, that make sure that it's not backflush from the swimming pool, which is more a seasonal issue, not now. But there was water coming out that could have been groundwater, anything, we don't know. So it was.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. We'll absolutely get the commission an answer on what that is, where that water came from.
Thank you, Cameron, as always.
And we'll just put that in the special conditions as we.
That'd be great. And then the last thing was, we did take a look at the trees that are under the enforcement order, and the buck rubbings were an issue on the maples, and Brad had responded to us that day saying that, it's a seasonality issue, and that he thinks that it needs time to compartmentalize or dry out. The bucks won't be going through that habit again until like November or so when the season hits. So he said that he'd put the wrap back on then. Interestingly, that's the end of the third monitoring of that year, so it is important that they get those trees to grow. That was one of the lessons.
Right, so we'll have to follow up on that separately. Okay. Do we have any commissioner comments on this?
No.
Any comments from the public on this hearing? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to comment on this RDA? No? Okay. Seeking none, I will make a motion then to issue a positive determination 5 for the bylaw and a negative 2 determination with special conditions. And Bill, would you like me to read these, or you want to read them, or?
These will be on the cover letter, Cameron, because this is in the resource area. The branch used to be anyways, even though it's hanging above. Ensure best management practice and building codes are followed. Before commencing the work, obtain all subsequent permits. Within 30 days, provide an explanation in writing about the black corrugated discharge pipe leading from the pool area into the fringe of the woods. See the Conservation Administrator for guidance on permits for work beyond the approved work activities, and that is it.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Art?
Roll call vote. Rick?
Rick is a yes?
Josie,
Joe, yes?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Art?
Marcy, yes.
Susan, yes, and Craig?
No, she's excused.
She's
sorry.
recused.
Oh, I'm sorry, she's gone. Okay, sorry about that. She's not here in the room, I
So
didn't,
good
okay.
we're all-
All right, so that passes, so we're closed.
Good deal.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
All right.
Okay, I'm not sure how we get word to Craig she can return
Yeah.
to the meeting.
She is.
There she is.
Is she coming back?
I'm back.
Hi,
Right on
Craig.
cue.
How are you?
Very good.
Okay.
Next up is a continued hearing. Sealand Corp., 202 Moraine Street.
I think it's 315 Oakbird.
315 Oak Street.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
It's all
sorry.
right.
Yeah.
Your pages may not be.
And that's a,
RDA.
yep, and it's a new hearing, so I gotta read it. In compliance with the regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held for the Marshfield Conservation Commission Tuesday, March 1st, to request termination of applicability filed by Ray Makowski, 315 Oak Street, to determine whether the area depicted is subject to jurisdiction of Wetlands Protection Act. And Susan is the hearing officer.
So the administrative requirements have been complete. This is an RDA for the removal of 20 damaged trees within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. Is Mr. Milkowski here?
I am.
Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, it's just, the last couple of the storms we had weren't too kind to some of the older trees on the property. There's significant damage. It's some of them where the tops have completely come off, or very large branches have come off. So it's sort of a hazard. We have two young children now that, we're just not comfortable with them around. Bill's been to the property a couple times just to look at the trees in question, and I think it's, pretty reasonable request that there is significant damage and sort of limbs coming off of all the trees that were selected.
Great, thank you. Bill, do you have any further comments?
I don't. He's been very cooperative. We met on different terms, and now, he's been fabulous working with them. He's been very proactive with both Eric and me.
Right.
I was trying to get some pictures up here, but it's taking forever.
I also visited the site. You weren't home, but I was sort of skating around in the ice and snow out there, and I saw that the trees were needing to come. I don't blame you for wanting them down. So I have no problem with this. Before the pictures go up, do we have any commissioner comments?
No.
If you've seen it and are satisfied, I'm fine with it, but to understand these a little better, where are the trees located? Are they in the 25 to 50, Bill? Or?
It's a variety. It's on the RDA, and some of them are in the 25 to 50, and most of them are in like the house itself is like in the 50, say, okay, roughly, right through the middle of it. So the ones to the rear where the shed are all in the 25. So he spared 3 trees over there, 2 hemlocks and 1 birch. And the big ones he wanted were the pines. They've hit the wall. They're maxed out.
Okay, so nothing's in the 0 to 25?
No, there's a few. The back is sort of a tight spot, but on the side,
Absolutely fine with it. No
50 to
reason
75.
Discuss any further?
Okay.
And he also was going to put up conservation markers on 4x4 rot-resistant posts, 30 to 40 inches out of the ground, because he's got them on beam posts right now. That'll take
Right.
care of that. So, all right.
No further comments then? Anybody from the public have any comment? Or is anybody on Zoom with any comments on this? No?
No.
Okay, seeing no further comments, I will make a motion to to issue a positive determination number 5 for the bylaw and a -3 determination with special conditions that Bill can read. They're mostly standard except for the conservation markers, so. if
Right.
you wanna-
Sure, best management practices built, are followed. Before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits. Post 4 conservation markers inscribed with red and white, Marshfield wetland resource no disturbance on 30 to 40 inches off the ground surface on 4x4 rot-resistant pressure-treated cedar equivalent posts as depicted on the final approved plans. Reference A, general information, item 2. The conservation markers and posts are to remain in perpetuity. Damaged or decayed conservation posts and markers shall be replaced. Mowing and vegetation management is prohibited beyond the conservation markers. This condition remains in perpetuity. See the conservation administrator for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities, which you are excelling at. Thank you very much, Mr. Mikowski.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh, roll call vote. Rick?
Rick is a yes.
Craig?
Craig, yes?
Joe?
Yes.
Bert?
Bert O'Donnell, yes?
And Art?
Archie, yes.
And Susan, yes. Thank you. You're all finished.
Okay, Mr. Mikowski, I'll get you your permit as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to Sealand Corp., 202 Moraine. It's a continuation. And Joe is the hearing officer.
Joe, I don't know if you need all this, but I'll put it up here.
I believe that the,
Does it continue? No, it's on.
It's not gonna-
Oh, it's on, okay.
it's on. Yeah. I can see them all outside, so.
Yeah.
And
Who would you like to FaceTime with?
Oh,
It's a trick question.
yeah,
Don't have
let's
an
see if
easel
Bill
in
has
the
an
back.
easel.
I have an easel with
Right here, I suppose.
that chair on.
move the chair
Didn't
in.
want to block the screen or anything.
As long as you don't poke me with those poles.
Will not.
I don't know if Bill has the ability to put it up electronically so that Craig can see it.
Yeah, I could get your plan if you want. I think. Struggle a little bit here. Oh, gee, why is he?
think really even just sheet one is sufficient for most of what we need to talk about tonight.
Okay, let's see what we can do.
Set this out of the way.
We should go
for the time
share.
being. We don't need
Go
it.
over here.
No,
Oh, my drive. There we go. Gotta get in.
This is good, something besides damaged trees, you know?
There's gonna be a lot of damaged trees here.
A lot of damaged trees today. So with settled in.
Yes.
I'd like to start our discussion. And my comment to everybody is that this group of, if you don't mind the generalization, Sealand and Grady has been wonderful to work with. Interesting projects and beautiful space. While you're wonderful to work with, I think it's appropriate to say we don't always agree with everything, and that's probably a good thing. It's been a pleasure working with you. I think that you've been very responsive. We've sent a number of questions and back out a number of observations, and you all have been wonderfully responsive. Although we didn't always agree with the end product, I want everybody else to hear that. It has been a great working relation. And so when we were here last time, I think there was an awful lot up for question, and we held a couple of questions. But I think now it's appropriate to have you do a presentation on what your proposal is, and then we'll go through our process.
Sure.
So thank you very much.
We appreciate the kind words. We feel the same working with the commission. This has been a real good project to work with Bill and yourself and the commission and the planning board. It's a very unique property, like you said, approximately 120 acres. It's got the potential for a huge open space component that we're spending as much time working on the open space component of this project as we usually do on the subdivision portion and the roadway and the drainage and all of that. So it's almost like there's two projects going on between the open space improvements and then the residential subdivision portion of the property. The residential subdivision portion of the property really comprises about, maybe 20% of the property, maybe even a little bit less. We have a number of iterations on that layout that we've been working on with the planning board and a number of specific issues with the commission. Some of the items that we've been working on most recently is Bill had identified an area within one of the wetland areas as a potential vernal pool. We did have that flagged and delineated by John Zimmer. Our survey group picked up those potential vernal pool flags, added them to the plan. They encroached on our drainage design at the time by about 20 or 25 feet. So we redesigned the plan to maintain 100-foot separation from the drainage to that potential vernal pool. We don't want, there's a good chance it could qualify as a vernal pool if we actually did go through the studies and we didn't want to wait. So we're just going to provide a 100-foot setback to it anyways, rather than wait to determine whether it really is a vernal pool or not. We had added wetland flags around the cranberry bog following a site walk with the commission. There's been a number of comments that we've been addressing from planning board, Pat Brennan, their consultant, Rod Procaccino from DPW, as well as the commission and Bill. We're currently discussing with the planning board modifying the lots on this to an open space residential development instead of the full acre conventional lots. Right now, there's a really good chance we're going in that direction. It will be the same number of residential lots, but we'll be able to do them on half-acre lots instead of full-acre lots. And the way the lots lay out in Marshfield with 125-foot frontages and full acre, those really result in 125-foot lots by 350 feet deep. So basically, by cutting off the back half of those acre lots, making them roughly half-acre lots, we're able to significantly increase the amount of open space that we're doing here. We have another public benefit component of this with the barn structure, which houses really kind of a historical cranberry sorting machine. We'd like to relocate that cranberry barn structure up into the open space portion of this project.
Where do you want to be there?
Right here is perfect,
Okay.
actually. So our drainage for the property is located in this area here. That existing barn structure is currently facing Moraine Street. You can see it with almost like a garage under as you pass by this section of Moraine Street. We want to relocate that up onto this open space lot. And with the open space residential development, we're able to skinny up this lot 5 here in the layout so that we can increase the width of this open space. Ultimately, what we would like to do is we would like to convey this open space to the town. And we think that would be a benefit to the town as well. The walking paths coming in from Careswell Street along the railroad bed and with the existing parks down there are really fantastic. Mr. Seeland would like to construct an elevated boardwalk over this section of the former railroad bed here. There's a section in there that the Blackwater Pond, because it is dammed up for the cranberry operations, floods over a section, so you can't really walk through there without really getting your feet probably this far below the water. So there's a section there we would like to do the elevated boardwalk connecting into the existing trail system. We'd like to extend the trails through the cranberry bogs. We're working on where it will end up over here for our connection to Webster Street. But it is the intent of the applicant to provide that connection really all the way to Parsonage Street, where the existing sidewalks are at the intersection of Webster and Parsonage. So I'm getting a little ahead of what we've actually submitted to the commission so far, but I really want to give you direction on what seems to be developing on a day-by-day basis and what the current plan is. There's a section of old railroad bed in that area there where the abutments are still in place. So we think it could be a fairly easy span over the Green Harbor River adjacent to Webster Street by utilizing those existing abutments. We will be showing you additional detail on that as we get that additional information onto the plan. We do want to get additional information on the elevated boardwalk. That elevated boardwalk would probably be about 18 inches tall. It's about 5 feet wide. It's on posts, so water can free flow below the walkway. That's most of the public benefit side of things there. We think that'll connect in real nice to that open space network, and I think it's something the Trails Committee in town has been trying to accomplish for some time, and this is going to help move that along. One item that has come up this week with Bill is that the roadway that's proposed, we do have a narrow section of roadway right in here, which is very close to a wetland system in this dotted line here, and a very narrow, really ditch that connects to the cranberry bogs on this side here. There is a small pipe underneath there. The roadway was designed in this location to follow that existing bog road to minimize impact to wetland. We don't have to fill any wetlands to get that roadway back there. However, we are in close proximity to it, and we do understand that the commission considers the roadway to be a structure. There is some question as to whether the setback for the roadway structure should be 75 feet or whether it should be 25 feet. The bog road has been in existence prior to the dates referenced in the commission's wetland bylaw. It may be semantics whether we're requesting a waiver for 25 feet or whether we're requesting a waiver for 75 feet. This could be viewed as somewhat of a limited project to access the otherwise buildable upland portion of the property. The reason it's not a limited project is we're not filling any wetlands. So we do need to contend with the bylaw side of working that close to the wetland areas. We would like to request that waiver. We're hoping to get some feedback from the commission as far as whether you think we should be requesting a waiver from 75 feet or a waiver from 25 feet. I won't bore you with the references to the particular sections, and I'll keep it kind of generic and conversation type format. And then the other piece that we're hoping to discuss with the commission is Black Mountain Pond. Whether or not that is considered a pond or a river. I did print out copies of this for my notes for tonight if anybody would like to follow along.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you for doing that.
Is that the one you gave out earlier? You did earlier?
It has pieces of the one that we did
I'll take
earlier.
it.
In fact, what we did earlier is in here in its full format. So it's not new information.
It's
The
just
only piece of this
expanded.
that's new is the first 3 pages that summarize the items that we just discussed.
Great.
Thank you, Rick.
Actually, I shouldn't even, first, 3 pages. Going here, like follow along. So I think a lot of this river versus pond conversation stems from the DEP issuance of the file number, where they had said although a file number is being issued, USGS identifies the water course labeled Black Mountain Pond as being within the Green Harbor Brook, Green Harbor River system, which is shown as perennial. In accordance with 310 CMR 10.582A1H, when a water body is not identified as a lake, pond, or reservoir on the current USGS map or more recent map provided by the department, the water body is a river if it has primary riverine characteristics. Where we disagree with their statement here, and I don't think they're actually even stating that they consider it a river. I think they're asking the commission to look at it and make that determination. Sorry to put you in that position. Right at the beginning of it says when, and there are other sections of 10.58 that come into play before this one does. That should probably go in order. So about page 5 here, the first 10.58 section here, I've highlighted A, B, and C. A river or stream shown as perennial on the current USGS or more recent map provided by the department is perennial. A river or stream shown as intermittent or not shown on the current USGS map or more recent map provided by the department and has a watershed size greater or equal to 1 square mile is perennial. A stream shown as intermittent or not shown on the current USGS map or more recent map provided by the department that has a watershed size less than 1 square mile is intermittent unless the stream has a watershed size of at least a half a square mile and has a predicted flow rate greater than or equal to 0.01 cubic feet per second, and at the 99% flow duration. So looking back to the first one, a river or stream shown as perennial on the current United States Geological Survey map. A couple pages later, I gave a little blow-up of the current USGS map. So then the next question for that is the USGS showing this as a perennial stream, perennial river, intermittent stream, intermittent river, perennial lake, or pond? Below that, there's a document that USGS publishes, USGS topographic map symbols, which we've included just 2 pages behind that. The excerpt below the USGS map comes from that document on how to read a USGS map. As we can see on the USGS map, there are a couple of items leading towards what I'll call Black Mountain Pond for the moment. On the upstream side, which is the lower left-hand side of this, that do appear to be shown as perennial streams leading towards the enclosed blue line. And downstream of that, there's another section which we agree is shown as perennial stream by the single line exiting towards the top of the page. At the bottom of the legend, there's a section that says perennial lake/pond, and that is a light blue hatch or shading surrounded by a solid blue line. So it's our professional opinion, and I believe this is supported by the USGS document on how to read the topographic map, that the USGS map is indicating this as a perennial lake or pond. It doesn't meet the size requirements for lake, so it would fall under perennial pond. If this were not shown as a perennial pond, then I think we would be needing to take a look at items B and C. if a river or stream shown as intermittent or not shown on the USGS map has a watershed size greater than 1 square mile, is perennial. The next section talks about watershed size less than 1 square mile is intermittent. We ran USGS stream stats on this. The watershed size on this is less than a half a square mile. It's approximately 0.43 square miles. So we don't need the size of the watershed for this to be considered perennial stream, based on highlighted items B and C. Going forward a little bit to the section referenced by DEP in the issuance of the file letter, they say when a water, 10 point, I won't read the reference, go through to sleep with that one. When a water body is not identified as a lake, pond, or reservoir on the current USGS, we contend that the water body is identified as a pond on the current USGS. Then it gets into some other items that can be considered in the determination of whether this is a river or a pond. Obviously, we believe it's a pond. We think we've provided documentation to support that finding or that opinion. The next round of what I'll consider finalizing the subdivision plan, the answer to this question is very important to us because that area shown as the Black Mountain Pond is located in this area here. If it is a river, we need to determine where the bank full portion of the river is. Quite honestly, that would be where the current edge of the water is for the Black Mountain Pond. That would turn out to be what would be considered bank full condition. So our 200-foot riverfront area would, in that case, be measured from the existing edge of water, give or take a foot or two. That's getting us really pretty close. So as you can imagine, that 200 feet would probably just about reach the cul-de-sac. It has a big implication on the final design of where the cul-de-sac is located. So we're hoping that maybe the commission can give us some input on where you're thinking this is going as far as the pond or the river. We in no way expect the commission to make a decision on the project tonight, but if we could get some of that feedback, it would be very helpful so that we can do another round of revisions with the planning board, which we anticipate the plan that comes back to you will include a lot of the open space measures that we talked about this evening, as well as hopefully going in the direction of the open space residential development. And before I put anybody more to sleep than I already have, I'd be glad to turn it over for any questions you have.
A lot of material.
It is a lot of material. Yeah.
Thank you.
Which is why I had to do this just for myself, just to figure out what I was talking about.
Nice job.
Do you use a mirror?
Really nice job.
Are there commissioner questions, comments?
I've got a few. On the final page of the plan, can you go to that, Bill?
Yeah, I hope.
You've got some riverfront information there. What was that based on?
That was based on the fact that, and actually I can even do this from the lead sheet if you'd like, Bill.
You want the lead sheet, okay?
Lead sheet's fine.
Okay. Bert, you got what you want, and then I'll go over to Brady here.
Well,
So, we fully understand that this beginning right here and going in this direction is a perennial stream. So where we're talking about riverfront area is an arc that's drawn where the river begins right here. So it does touch on these back two lots right here. So we just think that that 200 foot is here based on this portion of perennial stream. We do not believe the section shown as Black Mountain Pond to be riverfront.
so going to the page you just had up before, Bill?
I'm going there. Hold on a second.
So that shows it in relation to the wetlands lines, which are,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, there is some riverfront across Moraine Street as well. So So.
Well, the piece on Black Mountain, isn't that, Black Mountain Pond, isn't that the one on the left there, the detail on the left? Or am I wrong?
Are you looking at, looking at this left or this one down here?
The upper one, I think.
The upper one.
That's all based on that corner.
Yeah, it's based on that corner of the property.
And where are the wetland lines there?
The wetland line is dotted line here. And then the riverfront, the river is actually off the
Yeah, but
page.
the dotted line is the 200, is that correct, or?
Nope, the dotted line would be the bordering vegetated wetland. The 200-foot would be this dark
Right.
line
The dark
here.
black one.
Good pickup, Bert.
So it does come in the back corner of that property.
It does, but that's 200, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 100 would be outside of where the wetland line is already, so it's almost a moot point.
Yeah, for that one.
But that's not coming from your Black Mount Pond, if the Black Mount Pond is a bank-full river.
And then the other question I had about rivers, I think we couldn't deliberate much during our, we couldn't at all during our site visit, but we did speculate about whether or not there was extensive wetlands on the other side of Moraine Street where that perennial stream is. Where does that perennial street, where does that go to? Does that cross into the area where Moraine Street takes the tight turn there?
I believe it does. Yeah, I believe it
On-
crosses Moraine Street.
Onto the Garrettson property, correct?
Yep.
So,
I think I got what you mean, Bert. Let me see if I
so
can.
is that a perennial stream also?
Across Moraine Street is a perennial stream. And just about in here.
Yeah, keep going.
And yes, we do believe it crosses under,
Okay, so it
This
goes up
area.
through that access area to that lot 23, right?
correct, yes.
Okay. Just to understand the lots, is there a lot 4 anywhere?
No. So
So,
what had happened on that was we had had an additional lot with frontage here and a proposed house lot in this area here. The planning board in their review had an issue with that lot, and unfortunately, I think we caused some confusion when we eliminated it as a building lot and didn't renumber the rest of the lots. So the next version, we will not skip over the 13th floor, we will include lots.
okay.
So Bert, you were asking about the perennial stream. It's right here in this line here. I mean, I could zoom in more, but it calls it out.
Right, but I'm more concerned where it goes over onto the Garrettson property, Bill.
Yeah, it gets in
Or-
back here where I'm moving
Yes.
the mouse. It goes
Yeah.
in here.
Yeah, so
And
that's,
we've had multiple permits. We had one here and we had one over here that was shared by Duxbury. So we have this pretty nailed down if you all want more details. So I'm 2 separate permits.
okay, so even though there's no construction going on there, well, actually, further question is, this open space, so does that eliminate the cranberry farming operation? Is that gonna cease?
No, that's gonna remain. So he's talking to a cranberry operator that he's got a verbal agreement with to let him take a year to see if he can convert this successfully over to an organic operation, with the ultimate idea that if he can succeed with the organic transformation on it, then he would lease the bogs long term.
But you spoke about open space going to the town. Well, I guess it's too early to really ask questions about the open space residential.
No, we'll be glad to talk about that, because I really do believe that that's the direction that we're going on this, which is, I generally don't like to bring up items that haven't been submitted on a plan to the commission, but I really think it's the direction we're going here, and I think it's a good direction, so I did want to share that.
Let's chime in for a second. We do have the town planner, Greg Guillemont, also present. So when you start getting comfortable with that, commission and Greg and Rick, go at it.
Oh, there's Greg, I didn't see him up there on the screen.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, it sounds like you would like us to show the rest of that perennial stream that's across Moraine Street where it crosses back onto our property?
Yes, unless
Revised
that's
drawings?
all gonna become open, I'm not quite sure what your new plan is.
There will be no construction proposed over that way.
Is that still gonna be used as frontage for anything?
So there's an existing house out in the bogs there that we are proposing to provide frontage on Moraine Street. However, it has deeded access across the Eversource property out to Webster Street. So it does not access Moraine Street, and we don't anticipate ever proposing construction of access to Moraine Street. We simply want to utilize the existing driveway to Webster Street that already exists. So no work would be proposed over here. I don't think those sections of trails in that vicinity, that they're already existing. So I don't think we would have to do any work even for those sections of trails so they can utilize the bog roads.
So Rick, you're saying that in subsequent drawings, it would be advantageous to see the perennial stream in that area?
I think so,
I think so.
because it's a question for that frontage, if that continues to be a lot.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be glad to do that.
So, others are also on the chat, and they were saying that maybe in the vicinity of lot 23 in general. Rick, we can help out a little bit. We have a permit for this property over in here. It's got some details from Brad Holmes, and he did a flagging. So we have that, and I give you that. Then we also have this over here. This property came all the way around, so you're more complete, even though it may not affect you. You at least get that. I think there might be some interest in general around lot 23 from what the chat's saying to me.
Okay.
Okay, just throwing that out to be fair to the chat.
Actually, I do have one other thing to add that I'd like to get out there before it becomes an issue. We had proposed relocating the metal barn building that's there near the entrance over to an area here. We're going to eliminate that request, so that was something that was kind of a touchy subject at the planning board meeting, but we'll be removing that from the plan.
Are there any more questions?
I think, I got one last one, is, Bill, you're satisfied with the wetlands delineation in that area where it passes, where the road passes
This wetland delineation is
within the
solid.
25?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the final thing is, with your new plan, will those driveways right along the bog wetland, will they be eliminated?
If we're able to pull the houses in closer to the subdivision roadway, so yes.
So those are the 1 acre lots then?
These are all the 1 acre lots here.
Okay.
Yep. So we're able to rework it so we wouldn't have that lawn driveway going up by the bog, so the open space for that, I know, and I apologize, don't really have it submitted for you to see just yet. The open space lays out really nicely.
Any other commissioner questions for?
What about this determination of Black Mountain Pond or
Could we
stream
hold
or?
discussion for that until after we have public? Unless you have specific questions for.
No, I don't have a
Mr. Grady.
specific question, I'm just,
I think that's a discussion point.
okay,
And I'm not trying to put it off, I'm
that's okay,
trying to hear from public.
okay,
Because we did ask them last time to hold off,
okay.
and so I would like to respect that request,
Sure.
if permissible. Is there any comment from public members from the room?
I just had one point.
You could
What's your
identify
name and your
yourself.
address,
I'm
please?
sorry, Rick Sullivan, 236 Moraine Street. Just with respect to the, you mentioned open space in the town, is that the issue that you're saying you're really not sure about yet, or you don't want to get into yet?
No, oh no, we're glad to discuss the open space
Just-
on this because
is
I
it-
think it's an important aspect of the
I'm
project.
just curious, what is the open space? The bogs?
It would basically be the entirety of the bogs and connecting into the trail network to the rear of the property. And creating really physical access along with that as well.
So then, Jim, so from lot 2, I think it is, or lot 3, all the way to the left, you have no buildings proposed at this point in time?
Correct.
Joe, can I ask?
We listened very closely at the planning board meeting there.
I had one question
I have a
for
question.
commissioners, and then I'm going to go back to public comment.
I know this is preliminary because you haven't laid out the open space residential development, but do you have any, just a guess, a range of how much contiguous upland of the open space would be available?
It has to be 50% of the total required open space area. Do we have a number on that?
850,000 square feet, give or take.
So, just shy of 20 acres.
Okay. Sounds nice.
Nice.
Any more public comment in the room? How about public comment on Zoom? Bill, is there anybody waving for public comment?
I'm looking around. I don't see anybody. Now, Greg, would you like to just maybe speak, or are you good?
Bill, I put in the chat that we'd like to see that wetlands information that you mentioned that you have down at Moraine Street where the perennial stream crosses.
Okay.
Lot 23 is one of the lots that the planning board also had concerns about frontage. They would need to show that they could get access through there for the planning board to allow that lot to have to become a building lot again because of the subdivision. So that's something we would need to see. We have held off our meeting last night on the Red Gold Farm because we have been in discussion with them on a potential OSRD as a additional step on the property, and the idea was to shift building lots over to the new roadway and not have any buildings behind existing homes on Moraine Street, and to try to get lot 23 and the access lot 23 as part of the open space, and to keep all the bogs together so there would not be multiple property owners with the cranberry bogs.
Thank you. Hearing no more public comment, I'm going to go for commissioner discussion. And I have a couple of comments that I'm going to try to summarize very simply for us, I hope. So when I look at this, I do believe Mr. Grady has tried to resolve many of these, but the road is a structure within the 75. And there's some tree cutting up to the 50, and they're offering one-to-one replacement for tree cutting. We usually go for 1 for 2. And so they're doing flood storage mitigation between 50 and the 100. These are observations. So there is a question on how we work with them on the road structure within the 75. And he proposed the options. This is what I mean by he's been great to work with. But as you'll hear as we get on further, don't necessarily have the same answer all the time, which I think is good for discussion. Question about the ongoing maintenance of the rain garden. That's always a question that we have, and we seem to see that come up as a problem in years after. So those are some of the things that I think we'd be interested in. Who's responsible? How do we know that it's going to continue to function? Those can, I presume, be readily worked out. The stormwater plan, there was some question about the detail, but I think in the end it all wound up with, it looks like it's okay, but the town engineer did have some questions, and I think we should make sure we get resolution for him on those. One of the questions that I really have watching how developments work is who's going to be owning the construction projects, and how is that going to impact permitting versus individual, or for instance, individually permitted building lots and permit for the whole project. Do we need individual NOIs, and how do we ensure compliance going forward? Again, I believe that's something that's readily resolvable. I don't even think we're at that point of the discussion yet.
I actually have a very simple answer on that for you, is that under this current notice of intent, obviously we're showing house lots, but we're not proposing any house construction. So any house lot that proposes any work in the buffer would require a notice of intent filing, or at least an RDA. There happens to be some minor tree clearing just touching the buffer. But any individual lots would have to file their own application with the commission.
Suspected that was going to be your answer.
It's the cleanest way as
That's
far
the
as.
best, yes.
It's a good answer.
Far.
Yeah, it's the right answer.
It's our first project.
I think you've been generous and offered conservation markers already,
Yes.
which is nice. I'd like to see that. And the one question that I think we all have, and we're actually asking how to do it ourselves, is what is the necessity for a bond to ensure that the promises actually get delivered? And if we decide that route, how do we do that? Again, open, and I don't see issues with that, because even though we don't agree all the time, we find good ways to reach a solution that's reasonable for both parts, but I don't know how my fellow commissioners will work on that. I think the largest issue for me is the river pond. I went through the same process you did, and I came up with, it could be a river. And I came up with different numbers for the size of the areas. But we're not different by a whole lot, but we are different. And that leads, because you're on that line, it leads me to this side versus you on that side, but I still don't think we're that far apart. And I think the question is riverine characteristics, because we're close to that. But I'm going to let for the discussion go with my colleagues here. And one of the things that I kind of looked at as the end product where I had to make my decision, and that was the simple word identified. Because I went through all the others and I could come up on either side of many of those, but it still came down to identified. And when I looked at the maps, and I think Bill can help us with that if we get to that point in the discussion, in one case, it has a river name, and in another case, it doesn't. Which one? I don't do enough of that to be able to give you an answer, but it puts me on the line.
I do believe that there is a USGS map. I forget what the exact date on it is. I think it was 1960 or so. And it was only one in the sequence of, it was clearly a river before it became an impoundment for the bogs.
2012, sorry.
So if you go back to the 1940s, it was clearly a river at that time before they impounded it.
I believe the date on the map that I found was 2012.
2012, Rick.
Okay.
Very recent.
Okay.
We're
And
not sure if it's the most recent one though, but.
That's where I kind of got in this. It would have been nice to go in and say, 1940 has a map when it says it's not, and okay, then I'm good. But I keep coming up with, which side do I go on? It's not my area. And we're obligated to look at compelling information. I don't find compelling information. I promised short. I want to leave the discussion to my fellow commissioners. Susan.
I just have a,
Go ahead,
Bart, you go
Susan.
first.
No,
Bart.
no, go right ahead.
I just have a question. At what point do we request the further testing? There's in some of the reading you gave us, there's ways that you can verify it and test it, the flow, the things with dye and the bankful conditions, those sorts of things. I know that's more extensive analysis to prove that it's a river versus a pond. And so at what point does that become necessary to satisfy? I know that's not a good question to have, but I feel like we have to have it since you're...
It's a fair question. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the Conservation Commission. This is your show. So if that's something that the commission is leaning towards, then I don't like the answer, but I don't have to like the answer. It's your call.
I mean, is this an
So-
area where we should at least talk about
A third
Third
party.
party?
Yeah, so that was my point. So I'm going to take this home and study it all up, and after I do that, I'll come back and say I'm not an expert on this, and save us the time. I'm gonna study it anyway, but I think a
Good idea.
third party here would be helpful, because I don't think, unless somebody can say they can do it for the commission, that's one of us, I just don't see it. So it's one of these cases where I think it's fairly clear that would be helpful for us.
Well, that point I made before, Joe, you spent a lot more time looking at this than I
Great
have. With those wetland lines where they are, whether it's river or not, is that gonna change what gets done there?
I think you can find a way to accommodate the plans. It will take some creativity, and we may have to think some with them. But I don't believe it's a game stopper or major event, but it is something that we have to figure out. And I don't know what that means.
Still think
Again,
you're going forward.
to Art's point, I'm not an expert in this. I'm trying to figure it out. My experience is you all have been wonderful to work with. I want to work with you. On this particular one, I don't see the same answer, at least yet.
One of the things I struggle with on that next level of the field measurements is it's a little bit of witch medicine to get into the so-called experts on this, and one of them wants to put dye in there, the next one wants to throw oranges out there with a drone.
It's very scientific, the
Really?
oranges.
This is really new math.
the next one-
New math is bad enough.
The next one says it's beachfront.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wacky. I mean,
Well,
technically
as-
speaking, it's wacky. Yeah.
As Art said, we should think on it. I'd really like to know what difference it's gonna make either way. You know, why do we have to chase after this if it's not gonna make a substantial difference to
that's
the
a good, really
plan
good
anyway?
If we plot it out and
But
see.
the other question I have is the possibility of continuing the cranberry operation or turning the land over to the town. I'd like to have a clear understanding about what's going on with that. And also, all the bog area, has it been determined if that reverted to a natural state, would it all be wetlands?
I think the short answer to that is yes, it would.
Okay, that's important for us to know for down the line.
I'm not sure that's a desirable outcome to a lot of people. The Garrettsons have worked really hard on this property for a long time. I'm not sure how the neighbors feel about cranberry bog versus letting the trees and the wetland vegetation grow out there. I think it's really nice out there as a cranberry bog. That's just my opinion. Yeah.
I'm not sure of the right answer on that, but I do want to know, you know, which way it's going to go and what the, you know, if try to make it as cranberry farm, that's fine, but down the line, if it doesn't make it, you know, we need to know that that's, you know, all wetland.
Yeah, it's the applicant's intent to continue with the cranberry operation. If anything were to change to what that proposal is involved, really to let it go to wetland probably would not require filing with the commission, but the wetland line would stay really where it is currently. It has the water to support wetland vegetation if the cranberry bogs were to go away.
So Greg would like to say something here. Check, I don't know how to get in there, Greg. Yeah, I wish you had some. Can you, yeah, go ahead.
On Bert's question about the river, the importance, I believe, is lots 11 and 12 on the plan. Could be substantially impacted by your determination on the river.
Possibly 13.
11 and 13, you said?
Well, just to reiterate, so there would be an alternative analysis on two lots, 11 and 12. Zero project, the way they're presenting it, and then typically, if you did these lots somewhere else, well, they wouldn't be part of the subdivision any longer. They might come back and say, we'll never have this amount of land to allow this amount of, properties, et cetera, et cetera. So they have to look at it that way. It's another study is what you get. And the question is, how much will that move or not move? And it typically has a slightly different standard, but it would only be those two lots.
If Black Mountain Pond is deemed a river, and we do have to put that 200-foot riverfront area in there, Greg's right, 11 and 12 come into jeopardy there. We would want to provide more detail to the commission and have those house locations part of this application and approval, so there's no surprises later on what can be done on those two lots.
Right.
That
For
would
both
make
the applicant and for the commission.
Yeah.
So this is just the houses that would go in, it's the future activities, and with this concept is you go down to the 50 on this, because it's new with the cutting, and I don't think you can go any closer with any structure, even with the mitigation permit, so if they go and they get inside the 50 to 75, maybe the mitigation permit kicks in, but then they gotta give 10% back of whatever they alter somewhere else, and that may not work, so that would be some of the stuff we'd wanna vet out. So it's just gonna affect two properties, if anything.
So I think I hear that there's a number of questions yet to remain. We can't reach a resolution today. You don't have an intention of asking us to reach a resolution today. May I propose that we continue the hearing?
Yes. Bore you with my interpretation of what I'm hearing. Right now, we should probably make a decision on our side whether we want to pursue those measurements on the riverine characteristics, or take a look at maybe living with that being a river. Is we're engineers, we like solid answers, so that's how I'm interpreting.
The scientists like solid answers too.
Okay. Understood.
So how much time do you think you would want to think about these things? And I'm sure that Bill would be more than pleased to help answer any questions that you feel would be appropriate.
I think we need about 2 weeks to do what we need to do to get back to you guys. So I think scheduling a meeting 2 weeks from tonight's a little too early, because it wouldn't give Bill adequate time to look at it. So I'll suggest roughly 3 weeks out.
So it's gonna be
What's
the
the first
first
April
April,
meeting?
is what we're looking at, bear with me. It looks like that would be April 5th. The plan would be, everything would be due the 29th at 12 noon. Does that work for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you want April 5th? So paraphrasing just real quick, because I know we're trying to, it's on a pretty heavy meeting. That question you just paraphrased beautifully, and then you've been talking about a waiver, it's really we call it a variance. So I think I'm hearing, maybe a poll should be taken, that the variance might be something with mitigation, you know? And you've got a lot of that worked in with the planning department also. I think we've had that conversation with Mr. Sealand, with Gabe, with you, with Joe, and Liz recently. So that's, maybe I want a poll on the variance.
You want to do about the
Because
possibility?
nobody wants to apply for a variance unless because they don't want to get rejected. That's for the reason.
So how would we best do this? I would propose that we have a poll to see if the commission would consider a variance for this road as it was discussed. Of course, that means pending review of all of the pieces of the puzzle so that we really better understand it. But at this point, does it sound like something we would consider, or is it more something that we would say, not even think about? So is the sense of the committee, is how I've usually done this, in favor of discussing the variance or not?
Can I have a question about your question? Does the variance include, you mentioned a potential wetland crossing at the beginning of that roadway, that might be, does that include a discussion of that, or that may not be considered a crossing because there's existing road?
So we're,
Am I getting,
yeah, we're not technically crossing any wetlands.
okay, so I must have misunderstood you, I just wanted to be sure, okay.
But I think had we been crossing wetlands, then we would be eligible as a limited project.
Right, so that's a
Really
different
not
issue.
Crossing wetlands, we're really crossing buffer zone
Okay,
restricted
all
areas.
right, that's fine, I wanted to be sure I understood. Okay.
Maybe what you're talking about, Susan, when you spoke about 25 versus 75 for structures, this is a new subdivision, so I think we come under the new rules.
It's within 75 feet,
Yeah,
and this road
yeah.
theoretically is within the 75
Yeah,
feet as we've
it
seen it.
would require a
And
variance.
it would require a variance.
I think an engineer or an applicant wants confidence in what the commission collectively is thinking. That's why pulling it through. Helps them get a handle on that.
I think if we denied it, it would wind up with an appeal, and it'd be back in front of us anyway, so.
I look at this as a favorable, and they've been willing to work on so many things. I don't see a major draw with this, a major negative draw. But I've been working with this project, so.
I mean, I'd be willing to consider a variance for this. I mean, they're going to put open space for the town with the project.
Yeah, I think that's an important aspect. I do think, like we've said all along, when we look at consider variances, it's usually a compelling reason why. And so I think that would be part of what the argument would be on what's compelling about doing this. And I really do like the open space feature that you've come up with, and it's great to work with people that want to work with us.
This has been a fun project to work on because the focus really has started with the open space.
Yeah.
Spent probably as much time on that as we have on the subdivision.
I agree as well. I would not necessarily go for a variance right off for a subdivision, but because this is so beneficial to the community in other ways, not just, so that gives it, I look at that in a different light, personally.
That's very helpful information, appreciate it.
Craig,
I am amenable to certainly considering a variance going forward.
Rick, any comment? Or additional comment?
I like cranberries, so.
I'm rooting for the
Your
cranberries.
grandkids like cranberries.
And I'm a carberry, so, you know, it's right in my wheelhouse.
So that's a very,
Actually,
Minutes,
since-
man, I know what can tell you.
I think Mr. Grady would probably like this question too. Since we have the planner here, Greg, does this give you enough information to move forward with your next step?
We have a few things we have to work out on the potential OSRD, but it does help. We did not, meaning the planning board did not expect a problem with the roadway per se, but we didn't want to get ahead of ourselves as far as the river determination in particular.
In particular, they're concerned about lot 23. So I've got to give that information up to the group that we have handy.
And Bert, do you have any additional?
No,
No.
I think I
the
agree
sense
with the
is-
rest of you on the variance.
The sense is that the variance should at least come for discussion.
Fair enough.
The best I can give you is an answer without actually making a vote, so. So with that, I would like to propose a motion that we continue this hearing until, I believe, April 5th was the date. With the material having to be here 2 weeks prior, and I forget that date. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rick. So with that, I will take a roll vote. Rick is a yes. Bert?
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Art?
Art's a yes.
Susan?
Susan, yes.
Craig?
Craig's a yes.
And Joe is also a yes, so that carries 6-0-0.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Great meeting. Thanks. Good working with you guys.
Nice job with the stuff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, we appreciate all the assistance on this side as well.
So that's that.
Okay, moving along, 70 Parker. In compliance with regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, public hearing will be held, Marshfield Conservation Commission, Tuesday, February 15th. To consider the notice of intent filed by Brendan and Adrian Sullivan, 40 Sherrill Drive, Milton, Mass., for the raise and rebuild of an existing single-family home located at 70 Parker Street, Marshfield. And the hearing officer is Susan.
Okay. So the taxes, fees, and abutters have all been, those requirements have all been fulfilled. Again, this is a notice of intent to raise and rebuild a single-family house located in Barrier Beach, Coastal Dune, in an AE9 flood zone. There's this very slight overlap of natural heritage endangered species in a corner of the property, which is outside the limit of work, it appears. And so, Cameron, are you going to present this?
Yes, thank you, Susan.
Yep.
Again, Cameron Larson with ECR, representing the applicant tonight to present to you the notice of intent for 70 Parker Street. Brad Holmes from ECR is also on the Zoom call, and he may or may not chime in at times. So just to give you an overview of the site, it's a small single-family home property located to the north of Parker Street. There's a paved driveway along the west side of the home that's shared with the abutting property. Bill, I'm happy to share my screen with a plan if you'd like, or...
Right, I gotta figure out how to get that to handle. I seem to be right-clicking,
Or if you pull the plan up like last time, it's fine too.
Yeah, I think I have to make you a co-host, I believe. Make a host, make a co-host. I think it's co-host. Here you go, Cameron.
All right, wonderful.
Hopefully that'll work and you don't take over the meeting. That would be a bummer. Okay.
All right, so this is the existing conditions of the site here. So again, single-family home, driveway to the west, as I mentioned. There's a deck and shed on the rear side of the property. There's landscaping around the foundation of the home, and then there's a mix of native and invasive vegetation surrounding the home. As Susan mentioned, the entire site is located within a barrier beach coastal dune system, as well as land subject to coastal storm flowage. The project in front of the commission tonight is a raise and rebuild of the single-family home. We'll come down here to the proposed site conditions. So access to the work area will be utilized by the existing driveway. The single-family home will be raised. All material will be removed and disposed of off-site. The new home will be constructed within the same general footprint as the existing structure. However, to comply with the FEMA requirements, the new home will be elevated above the flood zone on timber piles. Now, staff did request some additional information that was provided by ECR in the memo. This included a piling plan, which was prepared by Rivermore Engineering. It also included a calculation of the proposed impervious surfaces on the site. I do want to point out that we are proposing to handle all stormwater from the new structure through a gutter system to underground leaching trenches. Staff had also requested some additional information regarding mitigation. I'll just switch over to that plan very quickly. ECR has prepared a details and a plan for mitigation along the rear side of the site. The existing deck and shed to the rear will be removed, and that area will be utilized for mitigation, which will include the removal of non-natives and the establishment of a native planting area. Lastly, I'll point out that prior to any site work, erosion controls will be installed and maintained throughout the duration of the project. All disturbed areas associated with the work will be restored utilizing native salt-tolerant vegetation. This has been detailed in the narrative, specific plants and the methodology for installment. And we're also proposing conservation posting installed along the rear of the property as depicted on the restoration plan. So overall, this project has been designed to provide a betterment to the site and the resource areas. Elevating the new structure will not only meet the FEMA requirements, but it will also allow for the free flow of floodwaters through the site, as well as allow for the proper movement of that coastal dune. Additionally, the footprint of the on-site structures are being moved landward from the rear of the site, away from the primary dune system and the South River, which is located off to the north. As mentioned, this area will be further enhanced with mitigation plantings. So again, the applicant and the team, wanted to present a thoughtful project to the commission. We believe that this is a betterment to the site. The applicant tonight is seeking the commission's approval for this work. And at this point, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Great. Bill, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, no, I appreciate this. You know, as we first got it, it was missing some information. They rapidly responded. So Cameron, will you please pass on the great thanks to Brad for turning that around so quickly? As you saw, you got revised plans with the pile numbers 35. It meets the criteria. The impervious table was on there. We actually had the mitigation planting plan on the revised plans. When I looked at it again today, Susan, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but when you look at the plan, Cameron, can we go to the one with the mitigation planting plan on it, please? There it is. Notice that the conservation markers in the middle and on the right are down gradient or away from the protected area. So the thought was maybe they should get pushed up gradient so that they actually protect it. Otherwise, that mitigation area might not last very long. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it will, I'm not saying it won't, but the commission has this opportunity. So maybe move the one on the right-hand side closer to the house to give protection, and maybe move the center one closer to the house to give protection. Now you have a true wetland, you know, or a improved area, and it's a dune environment, and it's a really beautiful dune. If you go to the other edge, it's really lovely. Yeah, one of the best you'll see.
Cameron, does that seem like it would be a problem for the yard? It's actually all just natural vegetation anyway. Does that?
Yeah, I don't see that. You know, I think it would be perfectly fine to relocate those posts. So, you know, I think, you know, along the edge of that mitigation area would be perfectly appropriate.
Okay, and then the other thing was, you know, this is a great plan, and we want to make sure it actually happens.
Right.
So the implementation and the monitoring, is 2 years going to be adequate? Okay. And then, you know, I thought, what's the trigger point? How to get this started? So this mitigation isn't like required as for some kind of cutting or anything like that. This is a positive thing. So
They volunteered it.
yeah, exactly. So they're offering it. So I thought maybe after the occupancy permit was signed off, that was when the first spring or fall planting season after it, they could start, and then they could work on the plants from there. They could do it earlier if they want, that's fine, but that leaves them some flexibility. They build the house, they get the occupancy permit in there, and then they're living in it, and then either the first spring or the first fall that comes after that, they start. And then we have a cycle of, Cameron, I've made Brad aware of it, of reporting. So if you start in the spring, say this spring, let's just give it an example, then you'd be giving the implementation plan June 1, 2022, and your first monitoring report would be December 1, 2022. The second one would be December 1, 2023. And then the fall has its own cycle. I won't bore you, but it kind of rolls like that. So anyways, we thought we'd incorporate that in also, because we want to make sure that these planting plans, and you guys always do great work. You had a great project over on Oak Street. You're working on Beat Street. You're working on Union Street. You're in a lot of places. So we want to get these just to keep going. That's all.
Do we have commissioner comments, suggestions?
No, sounds good to me.
Very
Agree with
straightforward.
that? Okay.
The building commissioner did have comments,
Oh, he did, okay.
and I'm just going to kind of go through it.
Oh, yes, that's
He
right.
said,
With regards to the foundation.
he said the new commission, okay, the Conservation Commission may determine what elevation the structure must be elevated above if the different or more restrictive from the regulations of the flood zone. It's AE elevation. What is this, a 10 or a 9? I didn't see which one.
AE 9, is that
Yeah,
correct?
he's
It's AE
at
9.
first floor elevation 11,
I
that's
thought you were
2.
doing elevation at 11.
So I think you're set.
Yep.
Okay, building code would require the roof of the first floor to be no higher than 10 feet above sea level. Well, first floor to be no higher than 10 above sea level. He said historically Marshfield has had language in the 505s that did not permit the lowest floor to be placed below 11, the highest recorded flood height in Marshfield. Well, that's because town council and I had a conversation, and it's not a resource area, so it came out, but it could be a performance standard we could work in later. And this is at 11.1, so it's at...
So it meets the,
Well, the thing is that this was mean sea level back in the day, so you'd actually have to add to the 11, it would be 11.82. So this is like a little less than that, but, you know, it's meeting the current FEMA regulations. We always put in our standard conditions that you gotta meet the current FEMA firm, so
Well-
I'll let him figure that out. If it's a
Okay.
problem, then he'll make the house change and they'll come back.
Right, and
Yeah. I think that's the way to go. The highest recorded flood, okay. So no enclosure slats are permitted below the lowest horizontal structural member, the lowest first floor, or new construction in a coastal dune. All right, I was told that in our end, 50% openings would be someone we would consider, you know, so, like, what they would do is they would
Right.
have boards with slats of water and sand could pass through, or something like that. I've seen it done, and it's really pretty handsome looking on the houses, so they can achieve that and still have a nice
so you're
structure.
suggesting in the order of conditions that if there are any slats or enclosures, that it allows 50% of open flow?
Yeah. I mean,
Do you have, I didn't, there's nothing on the plans with regards to enclosure of the open space. Do you know of any?
Cameron?
And that would have,
No, I do not, but I think that's an acceptable condition.
okay.
I could drop the 50%, that was told to me, and I haven't seen the standard, and then that will give you the flexibility, because this
We
is an
can
evolution
confirm that
going
with
on.
building.
I'm gonna kill the
Or he will confirm
50%.
it with building.
I just have one question on this, and maybe I could ask Mr. Finn, since he's working on the possible revisions. Weren't we headed towards letting the building department handle the
Yes.
building requirements?
That's correct. We want to get out of this business.
Yeah, I agree
Right.
with that, but it's, we're in the
Right now,
gray
we're not
space.
there yet, though.
So we're trying to give a solution, I'm trying to kill the 50% to give them flexibility. But these
Flexibility
comments
on the-
are making me have to do this, so, till we get the codes fixed on the 7th.
So if 50% is acceptable to you, we can include that in the order of conditions, 50% open space between the slats. Is that what you're, 50% total?
I was gonna kill it, because
All
I
right,
did that because I
okay.
heard that from CZM, and they said.
So we don't need to include that?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm from Missouri, so you gotta show me, so
All
I
right,
wanna
well-
see it in writing, you know?
So, just, sorry to interrupt, but you do not have confirmation of that from CZM yet, do you, Bill?
I have not got it in writing, and that is not confirmation because I do not have it in writing. I've just heard from a professional expert, which we all respect.
Okay, but I think before we can really go there, I think we must
Okay.
determine
clarify that.
that it's accurate.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll take the 50% out or take the whole thing out?
I would take the 50% out for now in the
Take
build.
the 50% out.
Yes, if we have no
Alright.
confirmation that that's a requirement, that we
Yeah,
don't need to have
I
it
agree.
in at this point.
And then to Bill Finn's point, I agree with him, we want to be out of this, and that's what we've been trying to do with the
That's
special
right,
conditions.
in the future we
We're
will.
just caught in a little bit of a snafu here, real quick.
If I may, just
Yes,
to
please.
stick my nose into this, I would get that 50% out as well.
Okay, I agree with that, so I think everybody's going that direction. So this will read, siding must conform to current building codes and the Conservation Commission requirements opening to allow sand and stormwater migration. That covers the bases
Completely
and
open.
gets us out of there, okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, I like that a lot. Thank you.
Do we have any commissioner comments any further with the project? Okay, I think it's overall a huge improvement and a betterment to the area. So do we have any audience comments or anyone on Zoom that would like to add anything? Questions? Seeing no further comments, we'll make a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions with special conditions, which will, do you want to read those, Bill?
They're lengthy. I think.
They're
Cameron,
lengthy
yeah,
and
they're too much. They're the standard conditions with
Yeah, I don't-
the siding thing and, you know, the planting stuff.
The only thing is the planting schedule will be added that we talked about, 2 years of monitoring, conservation markers that will go up gradient of the mitigation area, and the open pilings will remain open with no enclosures.
We'll need a revised plan by 12 noon Friday the 4th, moving those two markers, and that should probably be pretty easy to get.
Can you can do that, Cameron? Right?
I can relocate those markers on the plan,
Okay,
yes.
okay, terrific.
Okay, great.
All right.
Cameron, good working with you.
Did you have
I'm glad
something
to
else?
say.
Can we include that provision to update the plans in the motion?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, good idea. Yeah, okay, right. That's a great idea. And updated.
Should I redo the motion? Okay, I'll make a motion to close the hearing and accept with updated plans that will be provided to the office on Friday, March 4th by 12 noon, which will include the mitigation, the movement of the conservation markers, up gradient of the mitigation plantings. And you've give us an overview of the.
And I will second that.
Okay, second, and all in favor, we'll do a roll call. Craig?
Craig Hamilton, yes?
Rick?
Rick Carber, yes?
And you,
Joe, yes.
yes, and
Bert
Art?
O'Donnell, yes.
I'm sorry, Bert, and Art,
Loggy, yes.
and Susan, yes, I'm sorry.
Second on that?
Turning into a long day.
It's turning into a long time.
It is.
Doing my
Who
best.
was the second? Was that, I didn't catch who the second was.
Joe.
Joe, okay. It is a really long day, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you, Cameron.
Okay, next up, in compliance with the regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held by Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, February 15th. Or consider the notice of intent filed by Robert Nerger, 113 Bayberry Road, for the construction of a new detached garage within the buffer zone to the salt marsh. And the hearing officer is Rick.
Thank you, Bert. Okay, so this is 113 Bayberry Road, brand-new notice of intent filed from Mr. and Mrs. Nerger. Taxes have been paid, butters notified, and we got a DEP number, Bill, today?
We did, got it today.
Awesome.
Thank you, Rob Nerger.
Good, so we can proceed. So this project on a property is resource areas are a salt marsh, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and a little bit of riverfront in the corner. And I believe it's an AE 12 floodplain. They want to build a new garage with a workspace above and put it on concrete foundation with smart vents, as I call them, but they're flood vents. And in this particular case, they're requesting a variance to 505-307.2 to use that concrete foundation instead of requiring a pile foundation like is in the current regulations, which are going to be reconsidered and probably rewritten on March 7th. So they're passing the puck kind of to where we're probably going to be, in another week, and they're requesting the variation for tonight. Rick Savant, do you want to go through the project summary?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is,
Absolutely.
right in the front row.
How are you?
He snuck in.
Absolutely. So, yes, Rick Savant with Stenbeck and Taylor, the 113 Bayberry. This is Rob Nerger, the homeowner. So basically, we're proposing residential garage and driveway project here, where our property's up against the south of the Salt Marsh area, and as you stated, we are within 100 feet of the salt marsh, and we've already addressed that variance request that we made. Although being it's not a substantial renovation or reconstruction, we thought it best just to request that. So we have a concrete foundation with flood vents. It isn't a flood zone, it's within the 100-foot buffer of the salt marsh. Also, a small portion of the garage is within the riverfront district of the South River, and the 200-foot out of there. Very small portion that, as you can see on the plan, just clips the corner. We have that shown, we included that in our application. We've got the garage at 26.2 feet off of the salt marsh, which is in the similar position to the existing shed that's there. And the driveway is an impervious driveway. It's a gravel base with a crushed seashell topping on it, and that'll be the finished surface on the driveway. So we've got a 672-foot garage as a footprint in that position, and I think essentially that's what we're hoping to do tonight, is get that garage in that location.
Okay, and I did walk the site today, knocked on the door, but no Nerger answered the door, so I helped myself walk around the property, and I did see the new flags that were put out there just a few days ago, Bill. So I saved you a trip. Comments from the administrator, Bill?
No, I would just say they've been really cooperative. We asked for the flags, they put the flags out. We asked for the variance, they gave us the variance. We asked for the impervious table, they gave us the impervious table. This is a dream project.
Yeah. Always good to see one of my neighbors around the corner making out well in the Conservation Commission. Commissioners, questions, comments? No, looks like a good project. How about anybody from the public in the room tonight? No? Anybody on Zoom? No? Okay. So I'll make a motion that we close the hearing with special conditions. I mean, Bill, can you share
Yeah,
the special conditions with us?
Yeah, we want to make sure that we recognize the variance request is being given. It's right up front, commission note on variance. I won't read it because it's too long, but it basically says we're giving a variance to the 505, 307.2 foundation requirements. Standard conditions on the beginning of the project, so you register both sets of orders with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. You also post the Mass DEP sign. There's a whole bunch of stuff on the front end. We can do that really rapidly with a Zoom or a telecon meeting or an in-person meeting, whatever works for you. And then during construction, just follow best management practices, current NFIP FEMA regulations and building codes. If you do any other changes to the subsurface, just let us know, because it changes the impervious table overall. And then we have ongoing conditions as well, that you remove erosion control, and if you change anything, you just check in with us on that front.
Excellent.
Sound good?
Thank you, Bill. Can I make a motion that we close the hearing? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Joe. Roll call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Dr. Lagi?
Art, yes.
Okay. Engineer Burt?
Yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick is a yes. And Craig?
That is a yes.
Okay, thank you. 6-0.
Okay.
Let her rip, Rob. Nice job, Rick. Okay.
All right, so
Okay, next up, in compliance with regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission Tuesday, March 1st, to consider the notice of intent filed by Town of Marshfield for beach nourishment at Wrexham Public Beach and Bay Ave, and dune nourishment at Winslow Beach within Land Under the Ocean, Barrier Beach, and coastal beaches. And I am the hearing officer. Who is presenting?
I am Leslie Fields from the Woods Hole Group.
Okay. Are you hearing us okay, Leslie?
I'm hearing you just fine, thank you.
Okay, please proceed.
All right, I do have a PowerPoint with a few slides. I can try hitting share screen, Bill, to see. Oh, no, you gotta
I
allow me
just
to
sent
do
it. I just
that.
sent it your way.
Okay.
Should be getting the hit pretty soon. Okay.
Yep. All right, can you all see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Leslie Fields. I'm a coastal geologist and team leader for the Coastal Sciences and Planning team at Woods Hole Group. Here tonight to present the notice of intent for the Marshfield Beach and Dune Nourishment Project. Just a little bit about the project history. So this work has been funded over a series of years by CCM Coastal Resiliency Grant, starting in FY20 and then extending on into FY21 and 22. And in the beginning of that work, we were looking at the entire coastline of Marshfield and Duxbury and identifying locations where beach and dune nourishment were activities that could be implemented, where it was feasible to do that in order to build shoreline resiliency at critically eroded beaches. So we completed that site assessment last year and started in with the engineering design at 4 separate locations that were found to be feasible. And this year we are filing the formal permits. So the sites that were identified as being feasible for beach and or dune nourishment, there's 4 of them. So Wrexham Beach up here, the public beach, Winslow Ave Beach here, Fieldston and Sunrise, and then Bay Ave in Marshfield, extending on into the Granite Road Beach in Duxbury. This notice of intent that's before you only has 3 of those sites. So it has Wrexham, Winslow, and Bay Ave, the part in Marshfield. We don't have Fieldston and Sunrise in this application because we weren't able to get all of the easements signed from those homeowners, allowing rights for the public to pass along beaches that are nourished using public funds. So in the future, if those easements are signed, it's possible the town could come in and amend this order of conditions, assuming we get one, to allow, beach nourishment at Fieldston and Sunrise. But right now, this application only has the 3 beaches in it. So I'm just going to go through each one and tell you a little bit about what the design looks like, the resource areas, and the benefits. So this is the Wrexham Public Beach Site. The nourishment encompasses 8.2 acres, and it's designed to hold 33,870 cubic yards of fine to medium grade sand. It extends over 1,650 linear feet. It's all Town of Marshfield property. The benefits of this particular design are for storm damage protection of the dune and barrier beach, recreation, obviously because it's a public beach, and shorebird habitat. And the resource areas that are impacted by Wrexham Public Beach, there's coastal beach, barrier beach, land containing shellfish, so that's anything from mean high water seaward, estimated habitat of rare wildlife, and land subject to coastal flowage, which is basically the whole site. The acreages are listed here on this slide. This is a cross-section of what the design looks like. So the black line here is the existing profile, and this yellow line is what's being proposed. So it's entirely beach nourishment. We aren't doing any work on the dune. We're proposing to bring up the elevation of the berm crest to 10 feet. So right now it's about 7 or 8. That berm is 60 feet wide, and then it slopes at a natural grade of 15 to 1 to meet the natural grade. This particular project will provide protection for that dune under a 50-year storm and smaller. Although I want to point out, and I'm going to do that with each one of these, that the commission and the community needs to expect and understand that there will be spreading and an adjustment of the profile, after that material's placed. So we're not going to put it here and expect it to hold this exact shape forever. It's going to readjust, under the wave conditions. If the town wants to maintain a profile that looks similar to this, we're estimating you need to come back in and re-nourish it about once every 6 years. The next site is what we're calling the Winslow Ave beach site. So that's from Porter Street to Wrexham Road. It encompasses 4.5 acres and has been designed to hold 17,850 cubic yards. And that's a mixture of cobble, gravel, and sand-sized sediment to match what's there right now. The dune nourishment would extend over 1,540 linear feet, all Town of Marshfield property. And the benefits of this project are storm damage protection for the property's landward of the dune nourishment. Resources impacted are coastal beach, coastal dune, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Here again is a cross-section of what's being proposed. The black line is existing. The yellow line is what's being proposed. You can see now that the crest of the dune is just a shy bit over 15 feet in AVD 88. We're proposing to take that up to 17 feet in AVD 88 with a 40-foot wide dune crest and side slopes of 7 horizontal to 1 vertical. So this particular design here will provide flood and wave protection for the properties, developed properties, landward of it back here, during storms up to the 50-year event. Public should expect modifications of this design with storms starting at the 10-year event. Anything 10-year event and bigger, it's going to modify the shape of this design. And we need to understand that post-storm renourishment may be needed, depending on the frequency and severity of the storms. Okay, and then the last side is the Bay Ave beach. So what I'm showing here is the entire footprint that we designed. Most of it, as you can see, is in Duxbury. The northern 970 feet is in Marshfield. So we're only, obviously, with you guys permitting this part of the profile that's in Marshfield. So it extends from the Duxbury-Marshfield town line to about 220 feet north of Pearl Street. This part of the design in Marshfield is 5 acres in size and has been designed to hold 84,977 cubic yards of sand that's mixed with gravel and cobble. Again, just to match what's there right now. It's 970 feet long, and it would occur or take place on 16 private properties in Marshfield. The benefits of this particular design are for storm damage protection, reduced wave overtopping, recreation, and shorebird habitat. And the resources impact are listed here. So coastal beach, barrier beach, land containing shellfish, land under the ocean, estimated habitats of rare wildlife, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Here's the profile. This is the seawall right here. You can see that the beach really drops down quite low right in front of the seawall. So we've designed a berm at elevation 11 feet in ABD 88. It's 90 feet wide with a very gradual slope of 15 horizontal to 1 until it meets the natural grade. And this particular design, I was just going to point out that sort of pushes, this is mean high water right here. So it pushes mean high water seaward by about 170 feet from its current location. It does provide protection from wave overtopping for storms up to the 50-year event. Obviously, as this beach nourishment spreads and the profile readjusts, this level of protection from wave overtopping is going to drop. But as designed here, and if maintained in roughly the same configuration, you'll get protection up to the 50-year event. We are estimating that renourishment would need to occur about every, say, 3 to 5 years if the town wants to maintain this profile. I also wanted to talk about the sources of the nourishment material and just make it clear to the commission that this notice of intent is only asking for permission to permit the nourishment. It's not permitting a particular source. We are asking for the flexibility to use sources, a variety of sources, provided that material is compatible with the existing beaches. And so I've just listed some options or possibilities for sources here. So one, the town may decide to truck material in from the upland to some of these sites. Another option would be beneficial reuse from nearby dredging projects. So, we know that Green Harbor is dredged either every year or every 2 or 3 years, taking out, upwards of 30,000 cubic yards per year. So once permitted, the town would have the ability to take the material from this Green Harbor dredging project and put it on these beaches. There's also the South River dredging that happens every once in a while. So, that's also a possible source for, say, the Rexham Public Beach area. And any other federal navigation dredging projects that are around as well. And then a third source would be a potential offshore borrow site. I just showed a picture of one over here on the left, which is one that Woodsell Group permitted in the town of Sandwich, offshore Escusset Beach. Essentially, that's just permitting some sort of offshore site where the material could be mined or dredged and pumped up onto the beaches to provide a source of beach nourishment. This is a picture of, I think, the Currituck a couple of years ago, dredging inside Green Harbor. Easements, I wanted to just have a quick little message about that. There is a state regulation that requires easements to be granted from private property owners in order to allow public access along beaches that are nourished using public funds. I think it's a pretty fair assumption that the town would be seeking some grant opportunities to help pay for this construction that would be publicly funded, so these easements are required. We have worked hard with the planning office to secure these easements down in the Bay Ave area. Those easements allow the public to walk along areas of the beach seaward of the pre-project high water mark. So because that high water mark in many cases in this area is almost right up against the seawall, it's going to allow the public to walk along that whole beach. And we have received easements from all the property owners with private property in the project footprint. As far as proposed mitigation measures, we've got a time of year restriction for nourishment, so no work is being proposed between April 1st and August 31st. And that's to protect fisheries, shellfish, threatened and endangered shorebirds. We've got nourishment slopes of at least 10-to-1 and natural heritage habitat, but in many cases as much as 15-to-1, so much more gradual. We have done significant sediment testing and will continue to do that both pre any sort of project to ensure compatibility of the material with receiving beaches. I should say not just dredge sediment, but really any sediment. And we're also proposing pre-construction surveys of rocky intertidal shore. We're proposing some sediment texture mapping, more sediment sampling before any sort of project with all the reports to go to the Conservation Commission. The purpose of those pre-construction surveys is to identify if there's any rocky intertidal shore habitat within the nourishment footprints. Right now at these three sites, there is no rocky intertidal shore habitat, ephemeral or long-standing within any of the footprints. I want to make sure that's understood. But we do know that along this stretch of shoreline, sometimes we have these ephemeral rocky intertidal shorelines that pop up. So these pre-construction surveys would be used to determine whether or not there's any rocky intertidal shore. And if so, then we would be working with DMF and National Marine Fisheries to decide if the footprint needs to be modified somewhat to avoid impacts of that rocky intertidal shore. Or in the case where we couldn't avoid it, then we've developed a plan for a one-to-one mitigation of that rocky intertidal shore elsewhere. Reasons why we wouldn't be able to avoid impacts would be if that rocky intertidal shore ends up right in the middle of the nourishment footprint, or if it's very near shore. It might not be possible to avoid direct impacts. You can imagine if it's over near the edge of one of the footprints, we can just shorten the nourishment up a little bit. But if it's right in the middle, it's going to be really hard to avoid those impacts. We're also proposing post-construction monitoring. We're doing beach and dune profiling after the project's built, endangered species monitoring, and evaluation of any sort of rocky intertidal mitigation areas if those are constructed. I think this is my last slide, yeah. And this, I guess, pertains less to the notice of intent application and more just to the public in case they're listening in terms of, next steps. So the permitting requirements are listed here on the slide. We're through the MEPA environmental impact report phase, so we got our certificate from the secretary last October. Right now we're doing the Marshfield and Duxbury Conservation Commission hearings. So we have a parallel hearing plan with the Duxbury Concom to permit that Gurnett Road beach nourishment that's contiguous with the Marshfield Bay Ave nourishment. After that, we're going to be filing with Mass DEP Waterways, Coastal Zone Management, and Army Corps of Engineers. Expected we'll have our permits by about mid-2023. And then I think the towns will be seeking funding to do the projects. So I think the earliest that we would ever see construction is in the winter of 2023 or 2024. One thing I didn't say, I'm just going to back up real quick, right here, that although we've designed these projects to be, full, large-scale beach nourishment projects, one of the intents of this project is to get these sites permitted so that the town can accept nourishment if material becomes available and put it on these beaches. So it's entirely possible that, for example, the town might be able to take advantage of 30,000 cubic yards from Green Harbor, even though the projects are designed and spec for much more material. So any little bit of material we can get on these sand-starved beaches is gonna be a help. And the purpose of the project is really just to get these permits in place so the towns can nourish with material from existing projects, or if they want to go out and get grants for the full-blown nourishment project, that's also the possibility as well. And that's it. So I will stop sharing and open it up to questions.
Thank you. One formality, Bill. I forgot to ask about taxes, abutters, and DEP number.
We've submitted a request for a waiver of the filing fees. Taxes are exempt, and the abutters, Liz had checked this out. It would be right there on the cover. I'll check it out. I think we're okay on that.
Okay.
Abutters
I know we
are-
notified a lot of the butters.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. How about access for the various areas? Could you just run us through that?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to my. So construction access for Rexham Beach is gonna be via Parker Street, which is right here. We can also come up through the dunes, but I think the preference would be to go along Parker Street and then just right here, down the beach. That's for Rexham Public. For Winslow Ave, we're talking either Rexham Road or Porter Street, so down here, or Porter Street up here. And for Bay Ave, we're talking about the Bay Ave, what do you call it, beach access. I think it's right. It's right here. Right here somewhere.
Got a little dump lower. Heading to
Thanks.
Duxbury.
Right here?
Yeah. Yep, right at the line.
I can't see very
Yeah,
well,
that's
right in
good.
the line, okay, thanks.
Not taking our stuff to Duxbury.
No.
It's
no.
gonna go there anyway.
Get the road.
That's right.
Yeah, but a fair piece of theirs is gonna come our direction too.
That's coming back in.
The two strictly beach nourishment, Wrexham and Bay Ave, I think that's pretty straightforward. The Winslow Beach, I heard there may be some changes with that. Greg would.
Not proposed by us.
Okay, that's fine. I would like to know a little bit more about that because that's a dune reconstruction, and that's actually a beautiful area right now. How do we guarantee that gets replicated?
Yeah, so, you're right, it is a beautiful area. Right now, it's what we call a cobble dune, gravel and cobble dune. And so what we're proposing to do is simply make it wider and bring it up by 2 feet, but use compatible material. So it's gonna be the same cobble and gravel mixed with sand. Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you about that. We've got, there are some access paths across there, and I know that I had talked to some of the nearby homeowners a while ago with concerns over sort of, I guess, uncontrolled access there, and so we've also included some fencing to help control pedestrian access, so they're not traipsing all over the newly constructed dune. So that may be one way to sort of, protect it.
How about plantings?
In areas where we're gonna be just disturbing existing plantings, we will be replanting with species in kind.
Those are my questions. Other commissioners, questions?
Yeah, I just have one. If the Caratunk, when they do Green Harbor River in that area, usually it's in April or somewhere there. And if you don't do anything from April 1st into August, you'll miss the opportunity to get any of that. It sounds like, seems like.
Let me show you something else here. I don't have the natural heritage line on this map, but it really encompasses the seaward edge of this profile here. And so I think two things we could do. You know, we could potentially talk to the Corps and see if they could bring the current tank in sooner. Or if they're gonna use the current tank, they're gonna be dumping it offshore. So, you know, if they can bring in whatever equipment they're gonna bring in, that long reach excavator they've used the last couple of years, bring it in before April so we can get the material before April 1, that might be one possibility. The other would be to talk to Natural Heritage and see if we could go ahead and nourish the landward side, you know, up near the existing seawall, since it, after April 1, since it's not actually in the mapped habitat.
Other commissioners? Bill, I neglected to ask for your comments.
Yeah, so, Leslie, in which one of these areas do you see the plantings, maybe being, replaced?
It'd be in Winslow. That's the only place we're proposing any kind of plantings.
Commission, that's a resource area, so typically we want 2 for 1, something to consider. You good?
Sorry about that.
I got the time of year. I got the comments from DMF also, which came in today. Sorry, they brought a bunch of them in today. I think we need an access plan based on what Bert was saying and other projects, Leslie, because you know, there's all kinds of things going on. Like the beach administrator's got Moby mats out. DPW's done projects down in these areas, etc. So we probably want to get that. Anytime we have on and off beaches, we ask for an access plan.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Mike DeMayo is available, but he and I were talking about the SHM Green Harbor Marina project and an access plan, an odor management plan, and a street cleaning plan were all needed. I don't think you're gonna have that problem with your sediment. Your sediment should be, what, pretty clean? It's gonna be transported clean? Is it coming off the?
It's all sandy, very coarse, sandy, cobbly, gravelly material. It's not gonna be any odor.
Right, all right, then access plan. And is it gonna have water and stuff like that? Is it gonna be dewatered somewhere, or what are you doing there?
Well, if it's coming from the upland, it's definitely gonna be dewatered. It's not gonna have any fluid in it. If it's coming from Green Harbor, because it is so coarse, you know, they're gonna excavate it out and pile it. You know, we don't know what they're gonna do yet, but maybe they'll put it on the beach nearby. Maybe they'll put it on the beach where they put it now, and we'll truck it around. I don't know if you've seen what they do now, but you know, the second they drop it out of the bucket, it's pretty much dewatered and ready for trucking.
No, I haven't actually seen it. I know they're permitted down by the Narrows, but I want to check that out. Okay, so
So there's no real need for dewatering. It's dry and ready to go if it's coming from Green Harbor. And if it's coming from any other dredging project, let's say the South River, those controls regarding dewatering would pretty much be imposed by the permits issued for the dredging, not for the nourishment. We're going to assume that material is coming to us, you know, dry and dewatered.
good enough. The only reason I asked the commissioners is because of the case of Green Harbor Yacht Club. They were going to be bringing the soils over to the dredge spoils over to the town pier and then over to the DSA, and there was an entire regime that we needed to do. That's the only reason I'm asking these questions. All right, Leslie, we'll get that in the minutes, have it covered that way.
Anything further for commissioners?
One more on the Green Harbor piece, maybe it's for another time when it's actually being done, but I'm assuming that if it's going to be trucked out of there, the access points off of Cove Street.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And Mike DeMayo has been sort of pushing to try to get the dredging that's going to happen this spring put on the beach. I'm not sure we're going to be able to make that deadline, but in so doing, we have been talking about, you know, the process of getting material from Green Harbor down to Bay Ave. I think if we want to come along the beach, we're going to have to amend this permit after we talk to the property owners between Green Harbor and the northern end of this footprint and make sure that they're okay with us trucking the material across their
I
property.
mean, that would be, because normally it's dumped outside except for at least the 6 or 8 years I've been there. only one time they've spread it locally rather than trucking it long distance off-site. And that will be, I mean, that's something you really you have to look at if it's taken off by trucks, because that's will be a major deal.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about a couple other scenarios, like offloading it at the end of, I don't know, somebody help me with the name of that road.
The one at Bay
Further
Ave?
up in the harbor.
Bay Ave, where it's at the end of the road, into the harbor?
Yes.
That's Bay Ave.
Okay, so Bay Ave, all right.
Yeah.
So anyways, we talked about potentially offloading it there and trucking it down the road and then coming out the Bay Ave ramp. So there's a couple of options. I think if it's really a possibility that the Corps is gonna provide that material to the town, we're gonna have to amend this permit to include those points of access and those construction routes.
So that would come with the access plan too.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
so
that could be
why
beautiful.
don't
Good, yeah, we could add that, yep. But,
You know,
but if we're gonna come along the beach, we're gonna have to get the property owner's permission to do that. That's gonna take a little while.
So the access plan, if we get the access plan as part of this orders of conditions, it could be modified perhaps as a de minimis coming back. We've done this a trillion times, you know, so that would be, once it's established, it can get modified and give it a revision, you know? And then you can see they're gonna bump into a lot of unknowns in this project.
Right, I'm just, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of it, but you know, it's a hard time for even the size trucks that come in to take garbage away and recycling away. It's a very difficult thing for them, the size of the trucks. So with fairly large dump trucks taking that stuff out, there's really only one good spot to do it, but it's tough in that area. I'm just raising point out for you to really think about, so, or whether or not the Caratech could take, I don't know, it's not, I'm not an expert on that. I'm just saying that really you have to think about that.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and I agree with you. We need more specifics on that.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to open it up to the public. Is there anybody in the room that would like to comment? Mr. Maresco?
Mr. O'Donnell, thank you. Just I wanted to update the commission. So the Caratech, we've been notified, Caratech will be here April 1st. They're actually sending the bigger boat, I forget the name of it. It does have the open scow, they fill it and they can dump. Normally they would dump offshore in a designated area. They do, and we're looking at the plans because the cost of trucking is huge. That's one of the impediments. But 2 days before they get here, we're looking at the potential of having some cranes to assist. And Commissioner Lajay may remember in 2018, after those 3 storms, the feds relinquished the rules and we were able to do beach nourishment, put back about 10 feet of sand on a lot of those houses that bordered in the Narrows. Because the Narrows have gotten so tight, Caratech did not come last year. We had an issue, you may remember Mike DeMeo assisted in the rescue of those fishermen that were out in the cold water. When he came back, he was stuck outside the harbor for 2 hours on each side of the tide. You cannot get through the Narrows with a boat that has 4 or 5 feet of drag. So quite a bit of material has to come out there. And of course, it would be great to reuse that and have a beneficial reuse for the beaches. But the biggest impediment is the trucking. The access really not, it's really the cost more than anything. There are some access points. There'd be a lot of work, as people mentioned already, if we're gonna traverse the beach, we gotta get permission from all the property owners. We were successful. Greg and the planning department worked really hard, and we were out there. I even knocked on a few doors myself, and it was, most people were very happy to get assistance. But, if we could use the material, there's a cost savings of not having to buy the material, but it's moving that amount of material and the trucking costs that cost, loading, offloading.
I mean, I'm sure all the property owners along there, including myself, if we get some of that sand, we'd really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're lose it every year. That would be
Yeah, if you could, you'd go pick it up and carry it yourself.
I don't help. I don't help.
I would.
As long as you're permitted.
That's,
That's a hard one.
Thank you, sir. You had a comment?
24 Waterman, and I'm actually one of the people Leslie referenced, they spoke to.
Yes.
Homeowners, actually, there were 5 of us that were on the conference call back in October, and 3 of them are here, and 2 of them are on the Zoom call. We got some comments in reference to the Winslow Ave Beach project, and we've actually printed up some material we wanted to hand out to the committee that would be helpful.
Take it.
Sure.
What was your address there, 120?
24 Waterman.
24, okay.
And just to kick us off, we wanted to have Bob Shaughnessy, who's on the Zoom call, start out with your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I recognize Mr. Shaughnessy. You unmuted, sir?
I am unmuted. I'm at home because I have a cold and I didn't want to contaminate anybody.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, you got some comments, Mr. Shaughnessy?
Yeah, we put the, I'm speaking from myself as a board member of Public Works, which will have to go after the funding for this particular project, and a family-owned property that abuts the dunes at Winslow Beach. And reviewing what we saw, I'm very thankful for the town of Marshfield to address the soft shorelines of Marshfield. The dunes are very precious to us. Our beaches are very precious to us, and we all enjoy them for over the years. Our major concern is global warming, how it's going to affect the shoreline, and what we're going to be looking at in the future. So what we did was we did that handout, and we're looking at the overall coastal resilience piece. What's being proposed for Winslow Avenue is adding a 40-foot width in the front where with cobble only, and we're going to raise it 3 feet. It will only withstand a 10-year storm, and that it's a real soft approach to rebuilding that dune. We're concerned that we need to have some kind of hard engineering design built into the front of the dune to protect our dune and our infrastructure system. At Old Wrexham section, if you know where Roderick's house is, the beach used to go all the way out to the beginning of this seawall right on the wearing surface. Since then, all the sand has washed away and the cobble has replaced it. That's why the whole section, that section of beach is all cobble. I know this for a fact because I've been there since 1956. And I've watched the sand wash away. I've watched the tides overflow the dunes and do major harm, which is not coming back. We really need to have a hard engineering design built into this for a number of reasons. We can add the existing design. We can add in riprap boulders underneath the proposed structure that they want to put in to sort of give us some meat so we don't lose it after the first storm. Because if we're only designing for a 10-year buffer, that means we're going to have to be rebuilding this dune over and over and over and over. And trying to get funding for this through town meeting, it's going to be very, very, very difficult. I mean, our concern is we really need to have the town engineer look at the design and put hard engineering into it and apply for some federal coastal resiliency funds. We need to have a standard that will meet the Army Corps of Engineers and the federal FEMA standards so when we apply for the funding, we will get it. We have a one-time opportunity today right now to ask the federal government for funding through all the stimulus money. Okay, got a lot of feedback here. We believe it's very difficult to get it to a town meeting if we don't have any kind of external funding. All our seawalls have had some sort of funding component to it. So that's what our concern is. If you look going down the beach, south of out along the seawall, the DPW and all our designs have put riprap in front of it to break up the waves. On the northern side, on Wrexham Beach, many of the owners have installed.
Requesting a blankie from the bedroom.
Is it on?
No.
Oh, you just said that. You got it.
Oh, 1 second.
So,
Whoever is
Whoever's,
KWG, could you please?
Mute.
Okay,
okay.
good.
Thank you.
So all along Wrexham Beach, New Wrexham we call it, they've installed boulders in front of those houses to break up the waves. And we're really concerned that by not putting something similar to put some meat into the dune, we're gonna just continue to lose it. So, also, if we lose the section of dune between Winslow Avenue and Wrexham Road, the abutters that live in Old Wrexham are not gonna be affected, but the people along Surf Avenue and Bass Creek, which is a below sea level area, they will be flooded out. We have town utilities, sewer lines, underground gas and electric lines that go all through that area, and we're really concerned about that. So what we're really asking conservation to do is let's take a look at it from a solid engineering perspective to see what the feasibility of the proposal, and recommend an alternative approach which will meet the external funding requirements from the Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, and the state. And then we would really want to have large boulders incorporated in the long-term preservation solution of this dune structure, and not have it just for a 10-year storm, but have it to a 50-year or something that we're not revisiting this year after year after year, which we won't fund. So that's sort of encapsulated some of the thoughts that we had put in writing and that we handed out. We also handed out pictures that we have for the storm that was only a few years back. It shows how the ocean just rolls over what's existing there, and we really need to have something that's more substantial and soft engineering approach. So that's sort of what I have to say.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We'll let Ms. Fields comment, but is there anybody else that has anything substantially different or additional to add to this before we let Ms. Fields make comments?
Yes.
Sir?
Charlie Pesco, 41 Kent Avenue.
Yeah.
Just to back up a few of the things that Bob just mentioned. It seems like north and south of us, they have incorporated large boulders in front of the seawall. And now in Wrexham, they're putting slanted, huge boulders in front of all their homes. Probably a dozen of them now. I don't know if you folks have been there recently. Probably a dozen of them now, and it's one or two more every year, and they're paying for those themselves because they are in big danger. There are some homes there that don't have any boulders, and when you get a storm in, it's underneath, and it's literally ripping the siding off the houses. We were thinking about something that's more permanent. I think Leslie mentioned, every 3 to 5 years, you've got to go in and do something again, okay? If we had something harder in that equation, it might not be that way, and we could save some money perhaps, and be a safer environment for us. Secondly, if you look at the town beach, I think Leslie said it was 25 foot at the top. And you look at, in the Wrexham area, the old Wrexham beach, now we call it Winslow Beach, it's much, much lower. And we're gonna get a few feet there. I think it was 15 feet you had there, so we're way below where the town beach is. the town beach is in much better shape, I think. Those two dunes are huge, and it's gonna be a long time before we're backwashing over there. The other thing is, as I said, I see it on both sides of our area. Everybody using boulders as a new solution to help more permanently do things. Bob also mentioned Roderick's house, okay? His wall, he paid to build that himself, I think without a permit, by the way. He built that about 30 years ago. And Bob mentioned that the high of our dunes is quite a ways back from it. I measured it yesterday morning. It's about 100 feet back from the front of that dune, the front of the seawall in front of Rogers. Our top of ours is about 100 feet behind that, okay? So we're in worse shape than everybody else that has a wall, although we know that's not gonna last forever either. So we're sort of in a unique position. We don't have houses right up against that, as they do in Wrexham, but we've got a lot of vegetation. In fact, our organization goes out every year and plants new seagrass in there and some other types of vegetation that if you went there, you'd see it's very well grown in that area. And we try to preserve that, and if we lose that vegetation, you lose the beach, you lose the water. I mean, you lose the sand. So we've done a lot of things to protect that, but we think that if we could look to now a federal funding or something, perhaps we could do something more permanent than just putting sand back in. And I would also suggest maybe for the Winslow Beach, we put a lot more sand and bring it a lot higher than the 7 feet that they're talking about here. 7 feet there isn't going to do much. Oh, 17?
Yeah, 17 versus 25.
All right. Versus 25. So that's my point.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that has anything substantially different to comment on? I see nothing. Leslie, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I would. So I appreciate all those comments. I wanted to just clarify a couple of points that I think may have been misunderstood. So the current design that we have in the Winslow area will provide protection for flooding and waves up to a 50-year event. It's not a 10-year design. And so I want to make sure everyone understands that. If we do have a 50-year storm, there is going to be movement of that material. And, you know, if you want to build it back up to provide 50-year protection, you're going to have to come in there and you know, rebuild it or renourishment. There's a 2% chance of a 50-year storm occurring in any given year. So, you know, it's not an everyday occurrence, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that you're going to get a 50-year storm. To the point about sort of adding a hardened component to this design, we're talking about the coastal dune resource, and the wetlands regulations nor your local bylaw allow hardening of a coastal dune. It's just not allowed. It's not something that's going to be permitted. The reason that those adjacent properties are able to put structures in is because they were armored previously. But in a natural, pristine dune environment, the regulations do not allow armoring with riprap or a seawall or anything that's a hard coastal engineering structure. This particular project was vetted thoroughly by Massachusetts Coastal Zone Management and funded, frankly, by their coastal resiliency program. And so, you know, we got their input and their buy-in that this is the best solution, this sort of soft, natural solution for this area that is a natural dune environment. And they're not going to be in favor of any sort of hardening of the shoreline in this area as well, or either. In terms of sort of building it higher, which one gentleman mentioned, we could build it higher. I think one thing we were worried about was impacting the view shed from the first row of homes in this area. So I just looked at Google Earth and, you know, if we're to build up, just sort of getting some rough elevations, if we're to build the crest of this dune up to the same as it is over at Ruxham Public Beach, the first 1 or 2 rows of homes, not gonna be able to see the ocean anymore. You're gonna be in a hole down behind the dune. So I want to make sure that's understood as well. I think that's you know all I have to say for now, but I'm certainly willing to answer more questions.
Sir, one more quick one.
Yeah. So did you imply that one of the governments is going to pay for this?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
What I indicated is that it's likely that, you know, the town will be seeking grant monies to construct these projects. And it could be federal monies, it could be state monies. I can tell you that FEMA monies are not going to fund the hardening of the coastal dune. Federal monies are not going to pay for that, nor are state monies going to pay for the hardening of the coastal dune. I've been working in this field for 35 years and I've never seen it. It's not something that's going to get permitted.
I agree. Frank O'Connor wants to compliment you, Leslie, for clarifying and engineering perspective. So he was in the chat.
One last
Mr.
point,
Guimond?
because Leslie's missed it 3 times. She mentioned the 5-year for the rebuild of one of the beaches and the 3 to 5 years for the Bay Ave, but she failed to mention the duration of the hobble, which I thought was 10 years. Is that correct, Leslie?
Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah, you're right, Greg. Thank you.
Good catch.
And let me just clarify, that doesn't mean that every single bit of cobble that was put there is gone. It just means that the level of protection afforded by the original design is diminished after a 10-year period. If you want to maintain it at that level of protection, you gotta rebuild it. That's an important point to remember.
Were you in on the original beach study?
Which study was that? I've been involved in a number of beach studies.
Greg, when
The
was?
beach management study?
Yes.
Yes, she was.
Okay, that showed the whole shoreline of Marshfield and where the most erosion had occurred. Actually, Greg, you may recall it better than her. Was it substantially worse in this area that we're speaking about right now?
No, the cobble beach held up better than most of the other locations. And it isn't that it retreated because of the seawalls, it's that the beach elevations have dropped.
All the beaches.
Is that correct, Leslie?
Yes. And it's primarily because of a lack of sediment, you know, and then in the areas where there's seawalls, the beach has retreated back to the seawall. There's nowhere else for it to go. There's no more sediment, so the elevation of the beach just drops. And we've seen that, you know, in all the data we've looked at.
Commissioners, further comments, thoughts?
The package was very well done.
I would like to have one comment, Bob Shaughnessy. One question do I have is, why aren't we doing any beach renourishment in front of the dunes?
Is that in the Winslow area, or are you just mean anywhere?
In the Winslow area.
I think our main goal there was just, you know, storm damage protection. And we didn't look at it because it would sort of provide some sort of let me say like a bump or a perturbation in the shoreline, and we thought that the dune itself was going to provide better and more long-lasting protection. That's the real reason right there. This cobble dune is going to provide more long-lasting protection for the properties than a sandy beach where the material is just going to, you know, wash away faster.
during the summer, when it's high tide, most people who live along the seawall move over to Winslow Avenue Beach because there is no other beach in that area, and it's all on cobble. I think we need to raise the elevation of the cobble and add sand to that area.
I think that, so one reason that people are doing that is because there isn't a beach over in front of the seawalls because of the thing I mentioned before. But at high water, the water's against the seawalls, there's no beach. In your area, it's much more natural. And it's responding more naturally to sea level rise and waves, and so there is a bit of a beach. It is cobbly. I would suggest that one possibility is, in the future, we could look at providing some sand along this beach as beach nourishment, and potentially, work with the town on that. And we could modify this sort of conditions to include something like that. I don't know if Bill agrees with that or not, but.
Yeah, I do. We talked a little bit, Greg and you and I and others, about what the outcome of this would be, and there's some flexibility. But Bob, an amended order of conditions has to be something minor enough so that this commission here feels it's minor. So we got to really fine tune that solution. So listen to Leslie on this and where you guys are moving. It's very healthy.
My concern is that we have to meet some kind of federal standard in order to get funding, and funding with the stimulus money out of the federal government. I don't know if this design would be fundable under a grant program.
It's certainly fundable under the state programs. I know a lot more about the state programs than the federal programs. It's certainly something that you can get money for from the state programs. And there's quite a bit of money out there.
There's also.
Thank you, but that was my concern from being a board member of the Board of Public Works, that we try to reach out to all funding sources, not just state but federal too, and meet those standards. That's why I would like the town engineer to take a look at this and reach out to the Army Corps and FEMA to see what we can get funded, what we can't. We're still in the planning process, so we need to figure out what funding is. If it goes to town meeting, it's not going to get funded if we don't have any kind of external support.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I disagree that we're still in the planning process because we've been working on this project for 3 years. So, if we want to, like I said, if we want to go back and go to the drawing board for some sort of beach nourishment here, that's something we can do sort of as an add-on. That's my recommendation. I would hate to see the entire, the order of conditions get held up for this one site when we've got, all 3 sites that we're trying to protect.
Right.
And the Bay Ave area in particular is really in desperate need of some help.
That's good logic.
So-
Yeah, Leslie, that's great logic. And to everybody out there, if you can get these 3 permitted and then make minor changes with amendeds, it sounds like there's some differences here in interest, but most of it's the same. You want protection, you want beaches, etc. I would recommend getting this permitted so that that's locked down, and then you can amend it as long as it doesn't as long as it doesn't expire. So that gives you that flexibility to work with. And then, Bob, you were saying about funding sources. The town's got the municipal vulnerability program now, and so that might be something that would resonate with them, and perhaps the hazardous mitigation. I'm not too sure about that second one, but it's out there, so it's worth considering. Oh,
Well,
great.
I think for the amount of money that we're looking at for Winslow Avenue area, could be substantial for the amount of cobble that needs to go back in and sand funded to protect it.
Oh, Mr. Guimont?
Yeah.
CZM has told me, and we've been working with them for 4 years now on this project, repeatedly, once we are permitted, CZM will be helping the town with funding for the nourishment projects. So that's why we've been working with them all along. They've made it clear we have been trying to make this a permitted project right from the start.
So that's great, Bob. That gives you a funded source too. And then the,
So, well, I mean, I'm very, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy that town is dealing with the soft shorelines. I mean, I've been on this board for 20 years, and we've been dealing with the hard structures and protecting the seawalls up and down the coast. And we have really never focused on the soft shorelines, and I was very happy to know that the town is really taking an interest on the soft shorelines. I just want to make sure that we all on the same page and we work as a team.
great information you're sharing. It's great information.
Okay, so right now, we have this notice intent in front of us. Are the commissioners ready to make a decision here?
One quick comment. I'll make it very quick, if I may.
Sure.
There is zero possibility that somebody's going to fund a hard structure on a beach. So you guys may want to think about that. That's my personal observation. State, federal, nobody's going to give you money because it's not permitted. And you're going to have to look at another option. I'm done.
Yep. Further comments from commissioners? I would be in agreement with that. You know, every regulation we deal with points us in this direction. So I'd like to make a motion to, what would the special conditions be, Bill?
Okay. These, we want to vet them out. So, best we do it now while we have everybody. What do we do here? Let's skip forward to the other one. Bear with me. A lot of notes. A lot of notes. Okay. So nothing's being withdrawn, so I'll kill DO. Good deal. Classic, register all orders of conditions, post the sign. Leslie, I'm thinking that we should have 3 signs out there posted in key locations for the 3 beaches.
Makes sense.
Excellent. Obtain all subsequent permits. Make sure that the applicable appeal periods have passed. Coordinate with the town planner and the conservation administrator. Okay. Sure best management practices are followed. Advise the town planner and town conservation administrator about the progress of the project. Ensure that the Mass DMS fisheries comments dated March 1, 2022 are included. I just parroted them here. I'm going to give that back to you. Post-dredge, submit a certificate of compliance along with a final report depicting the results. The request for certificate of compliance, WPA Form 8A, shall request ongoing conditions, including periodic maintenance, as per the final approved plans in A, general information item 8 under these orders of conditions, or subsequent amended order of conditions, or extended order of conditions, WPA Form 7, before the expiration date of these orders, which is identified on page 7 of the order of conditions, and any subsequent extended expiration date. The reason that's in there is we may not all be around, but this may go on as a 50-year permit or something, and we want that to be around. So that language there does the job. Sorry, it was lengthy there. I think we also want an access plan on the front end, Leslie, so I'm going to throw that in. I think the plantings at Winslow Avenue should be 2 for 1 because you're in the resource area. So we're encouraging you not to knock plants down unless you have to. And so that's typically what you do. So we'd do that for anybody else. There's no dewatering issues, so that's gone. And I think that's it. I think we can do this.
Is there any time for any other questions?
Who's speaking?
This is Chris Carboni from E Street.
Take one final comment.
18E.
Go ahead, sir. Okay, this is a question for Leslie. I was wondering if the dunes along the Green Harbor River were given any consideration as far as being rebuilt. Up until this point, the dredging material was always used to replenish the dunes here because they get washed away every 1 or 2 years. We lose 30, 40, 50 feet sometimes. You keep talking about taking the 30,000 yards of material out of Green Harbor, and I was wondering if these dunes were ever taken into consideration as far as what happens at that point when they're no longer replenished, and this is a barrier beach, and when this is gone, all the buildings in the back go next.
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, we did look at those dunes as places to put material, mainly because, there's such a problem with shoaling in the harbor. I think the concern would be that we would, exacerbate that. So it's not a place that we considered for the dunes. I understand and can sympathize with your problem, and maybe there's some other solution that could be implemented for that site, but I don't think it's gonna be dune nourishment is the answer.
Well, at this point, they've done it right along. The problem that we've had on this side of the harbor was the hard revetments that were placed on the Green Harbor side. And when the northeast storms come through, they bounce off of that hard revetment, and they bounce back to this side, and that's when we started losing all of this dune material. So I understand they don't allow hard revetments anymore, but because of the hard revetments that were done before,
Yeah.
we're losing land on this side.
Okay, sir, I think,
I-
I think those are good comments, but they're a little outside of the scope of this project.
Well, yes, they are as far as that goes. As far as that goes, I'm talking about the taking of all the dredge material from here.
That would be a separate,
Yeah, Mr. Carboni, to
Project.
the chair's point, there's another permit, you can call Conservation's Department and talk to me about that. It's a land-based project, and maybe that one could get amended, but not this one, I don't think.
so Bill, you've listened to the conditions. I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. If I get a second?
Second.
Joe?
Second is Joe. Roll call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Art, yes.
Joe, yes.
Rick, yes.
Craig?
And yes,
It's unanimous, Bill.
You were called out also, Bert?
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, great.
And
All right, Leslie.
just for everybody that made comments, I don't think there's any 100% right answer to this problem. And I think as the years go forward, things are gonna change. But right now, this is considered the best way forward. So I thank you all for your time.
Yeah, great input.
Thank you, commissioners.
Nice
All right,
job,
thank
Leslie.
you.
Can you commissioners?
You don't want to stay, Bill?
No, I'm leaving. I need less than an hour.
Okay, what's next?
Next up.
239.
In compliance with regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held by Marshfield Concom Tuesday, March 1st. For notice of intent for SHM Green Harbor LLC, Box 238 Green Harbor, for the dredging of the boat basin within the land under the ocean. Hearing officer is Art.
All right.
Get the
Okay,
folder
Bill.
there, or,
Yes, yeah.
so you can just check all those boxes, I think they're good.
Did before.
Got your
The taxes
abutters.
are paid, the butters notified, we've got the file number. So is there someone here to present this?
Yes, Tom Tversky from Maryland is the Marine Services Division.
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This project consists of maintenance dredging of the Green Harbor Marina. It's under DEP file number 0422970. We haven't received any comments from DEP because we think everything's been pretty well satisfied as a complete application. Now, the maintenance dredging consists of using the same exact footprint, the protocols, and the permit procedures that we used for previous dredges. Basically, we're dealing about 4.3 acres of dredge footprint. And in this case, we're not taking out as much as they did in previous dredges. We're estimating there's going to be about 6,150 cubic yards of material. The resource areas that we have present here are land under ocean, land containing shellfish, fish run, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. The area is not mapped as a priority habitat. And we did receive a letter today from the Division of Marine Fisheries indicating that, confirming we do, that we have a shellfish habitat here. They do identify there is a salt marsh which is located outside of our project area. And we're not planning on touching that or being too close to that. We have any impact for that. And it's a fish run for river herring and American eel. And we do anticipate, like most dredges, and this is no exception, that there will be time of year restrictions for this, so we protect those species. And we've been working very closely with the town, and we'll continue to do so on this dredge process to make sure that we take care of the shellfish, and if there's replenishment needed, that'll be taken care of. Like I said before, we have 6,150 yards of dredge material looking to take out. This material will be fully sampled and tested. We presently have filings in with most state and federal regulators, and we will be also filing shortly with the Board of Selectmen, and we're going to seek to keep our options open for disposal sites, be it landside disposal or oceanside disposal. So at this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question on the timing, because it seems like all of the activities on the dredging would potentially produce silt. And Bill had a comment, which I'm going to ask for Bill's, but it's from February 1st through June 30th. So is the intent to do this in July, August, September, or something like that? Or January of next year, or what's the timing?
The timing will be actually determined by the Army Corps of Engineers. I can tell you, we won't be doing it from February 1st to June 30th. Typically, it's a short window that takes place in the winter time that it transpires. And yeah, as far as the siltation, sedimentation, that's why we're going to have the chemical analysis and everything else done. And then they'll do the clean bucket shell into the scour, let it de-water through that area there. And with any dredge, you are going to have some silt get stirred up. And ultimately, it is good for the water column to clean the stuff out because it stops the crop wash. It allows the water column to get deeper and cleaner, and it helps those sediments in the future from getting resuspended. So it's only a short-term process that takes place there. The other thing that I found encouraging looking at the previous dredges is you know, they did allow some of these previous ones to go to the Cape Cod disposal site and the also that landside disposal. But usually when they allow them to go to Cape Cod disposal site, they usually pretty clean material that's coming out of there.
So, but that answers my question, so it'd be, we'll put a restriction February 1 through June 30th. Bill, any other comments you have?
No, I think they've done a nice job on this. I want to compliment Tom. This is amazing. He came down, he looked at all the old permits. He did this back, I'm going to say October, November of last year. I met with him, I think it might even been further than that, back than that. And then he had a meeting with me in May again. So he's looked at like 10 or 15 permits on this property. He's got this thing absolutely sewed up. And the two things that we didn't have, we got all done today. So my compliments to you, Tom.
Thanks for your help, Bill. Very helpful.
Any other commissioners? Rick, anybody? No? Okay, we're all set. So I'm going to make a motion that we close and order the order of conditions. And Bill has listed them already. So
I'll just give a rundown real quick.
Quick one.
Tom, all the classics. We're going to have DO Waterways Projects 34-7G fees apply. Harbor Master will be the overseer of any applicable fees. A few years back, Mike went to town meeting and had his 34-7G tied to orders of conditions and determination of applicability. So that's why that's there. So the barge can't hang out, in other words. Register both sets of orders of the conditions with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, post the DEP sign. Some are legitimate. There's plenty of room on that marina out there. There's a lot of front-end stuff. I got to read this. I'm really sorry. But I talked to the harbor master about it, and we tailored this to your needs. Post a Mass DEP sign at both the boat basin, which is in the marina, I got the parcel number here, and the dredge spoils area, in case you go over there, okay? And provide evidence to the Conservation Office. Obtain all subsequent permits, standard. Obtain a permit from Mass DEP that dredge spoils removed from the boat basin depicted on the approved site plan may be disposed at a designated approved offshore site or a land or a upland facility or the DSA. Provide evidence to Conservation Administrator and Harbor Master of any additional permitting and permissions to dispose at the designated disposal site. As I've told you, there's some issues about who has the authority to allow the dumping in the DSA. There are also costs involved and so on. The Harbor Master and I and the Commission are not going to get involved in that. You need to just make sure that you get that figured out. Obtain confirmation that all applicable fees associated with the disposal at the DSA are approved. Provide evidence to Conservation Administrator and Harbor Master. Applicable fees are administered by DPW Select Board or equivalent. Advise the Conservation Administrator and Harbor Master if an alternate destination is required. Additional permitting may be required as appropriate. This turned out to be a great tool that they used at the Green Harbor Yacht Club, so that's a gift there. Submit an access plan, an odor management plan, and street cleaning plan acceptable to Harbor Master and the Conservation Administrator, covering the area from the barge loading location at Green Harbor, continuing to the tight transport road vehicles transferring to the DSA or any designated and approved upland disposal facility. The access plan, odor management plan, and street cleaning plan shall detail actions to ensure odor mitigation and mitigation of dredge spoils spilled from the tight transport road vehicles. Submit a shellfish mitigation plan acceptable to the Harbor Master and the Conservation Administrator. Okay. Submit a dredge survey, proposed reconfiguration detail plan, and narrative prior to the reconstruction meeting, the pre-construction meeting with the Conservation Administrator and Harbor Master. Coordinate pre-construction site meeting with the Conservation Administrator and Harbor Master. I repeated myself there, sorry. Applicant shall observe 310 CMR 10.0 that no work should commence until all applicable administrative appeals periods have lapsed, and the other stuff standard. Ensure best management, Okay, during construction, advise both the Conservation Administrator and the Harbor Master of progress. Ensure comments from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries letter dated March 1, 2022, listed below, are followed. And that was the time of year constraint that Art called out. Also, Mass DMF recommends the top dredge spoils at Station 8 maintain a buffer from any bordering salt marsh of at least 25 feet. That's current standard language, so we'll adopt that. Appropriate containment measures should be employed to prevent siltation in the marine environment during dredge activities. I've heard mixed things about that, but do it anyways because we're supposed to do that for DMF, and if it fails, we'll figure out a solution. Ensure the dredge footprint does not deviate from the coordinates shown on the plan of record. Almost there. This one's important. Post-dredge work, ongoing conditions. Submit a request for certificate of compliance along with a final report depicting the results, including total cubic yards of dredge material removed, total area, and depth of coverage in designated dredge spoils destination. Any wildlife impacts and completion of the shellfish mitigation, including written confirmation by the Harbor Master. The request for certificate of compliance shall request ongoing conditions, including periodic maintenance of the boat basin as per the final approved plans in A, General Information Item 8 from these orders and conditions, or subsequent amended orders and conditions, or submit extension of Order of Conditions, WPA Form 7, before the expiration date of these orders and conditions, which is identified on page 5 of these orders and conditions, any subsequent extended expiration date. And as I told the people on the last permit, we may not all be around here. We want this to be truly an ongoing permit that was going to have legs that will be built around this project here that you put together, Tom. So that's why we had all that language. And I'm sorry if I bored everybody.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have to take a vote. Craig, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Yeah, good.
Craig, yes.
Okay, Craig, yes.
Rick, yes.
Joe, yes.
Bert, yes.
Susan?
Yes, Susan, yes.
Susan, yes, and Art's a yes, and so it's 6-0.
Excellent. Well done, Tom. That's that.
Folks, have a good night.
That was an extremely good permit. Nice job.
Okay, Bill, so now we have to open these new continued hearings, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to open the new continued hearings. and
Okay.
then-
In compliance with the regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held by Marshfield Concom Tuesday, March 1st. For a notice intent filed by the Town of Marshfield, 965 Plain Street, for various maintenance and repairs to existing concrete seawalls, armor stone revetments, and beach access within the land under the ocean, barrier beach, coastal dune, coastal banks, so on and so forth. So this is to be continued, Bill?
That one's continued to, and you want to take a motion to continue to March 15th. They'll be done by the 15th.
Okay, make a motion to continue to March 15th. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second is Joe. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Art's a yes.
Joe?
Joe's a yes.
Rick?
yes?
Craig?
Craig's a yes.
Okay.
I'm a yes on the
Bert's a
rest.
yes, and Bert a yes.
Bert is a yes.
Bert's a yes. We got a 6-0.
Bert is tired.
All right.
Okay, in compliance with the regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held by Marshfield Concom Tuesday, March 1st. For notice of intent filed by Joanna Dixon, 65 Hartford Road, Marshfield, to elevate an existing single-family home. When does that continue till, Bill?
Which one is that one?
Hartford Road?
Yeah, that's going to continue to 3:15. We have to wait for Art to come back, because I think when you have a roll call going, I think everybody has to be present, so to get that done, he has to get back here.
Okay, can I go ahead and open 3 Trumps Island, and then we'll vote when he gets back?
I do not have a problem with that.
Okay, in compliance with regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held by Marshfield Concom Tuesday, March 1st. For a notice of intent filed by Joanne and Robert McLaughlin, 39 Barney Hill Road, Wayland, Mass., for relocation of single-family home located at 3 Trounce Island, Marshfield, Mass.
Okay. Then we got to read Zero Littles. We didn't do that last time, so we could maybe read that one.
I don't think I have the
Let me get it for you.
information on that.
I got a page here. What is that? Is that, that's the 6 birch, right?
In compliance with regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held for Marshfield Concom Tuesday, February 1st. To consider notice of intent filed by 6 Birch Realty Trust, David Armstrong, Little's Lane, 29 Little's Lane, Marshfield, to extend a private dock, gangway, and float within the riverfront land and underwater bodies and waterways.
Beautiful. Okay.
Okay,
You need your motion for that?
so, make a motion to close that one, not to continue until Little's Lane.
Let me take a picture. I'm gonna stick like you are. All right, so I think it's gonna be till, that Little's Lane is going to go to, the low down at 3:15. Okay, March 15th.
Make a motion to continue to March 15th. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second is Joe. Roll call, Craig?
Yes.
Rick?
Rick is a yes.
Joe's a yes.
Bert is a yes. Art?
Art's a yes.
Susan?
Yes.
So, okay, so now we're gonna go backwards to 56 Hartford, 3 Trounce.
Okay, when's that going to? March 15th?
Yeah, 56 is going on March 15th.
Okay, motion to continue 56 Hartford Road until March 15th.
Second.
Have I got a second, Susan? Roll call, Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Art's a yes.
Bert,
Joe?
yes. Joe?
Yes.
Yes.
Rick's a yes.
Rick, yes. Craig?
Craig's a yes.
6-0,
you.
good. One more of these.
Caught me off guard there. You changed your method.
Yeah.
I'm getting this, I forgot a system here, don't.
Okay.
Gotta be in rhythm.
So, Bill, you took it away from me.
I took the legal ad from, what,
0 Little's Lane, when's it continuing to?
3:15.
I thought you made that motion already. That's the one you made.
Okay, so I've
So
got
the
all
one you need
three.
is, the one you need is 3 Trounce. And you have that. The McLaughlin one.
Okay, when do you want to continue that till?
That would be the 315 also, yeah.
Okay, motion to continue 3 Trans Island until March 15th.
Second.
Second, Susan?
Susan, yes.
Susan?
Archie,
Aye.
yes.
Joe?
Yes, Joe,
Rick?
yes.
Rick's yes.
Greg?
Craig, yes.
And Bert
So
O'Donnell,
I'll do
yes.
these, okay. So there are 3 more that just need to be voted for, 12 Branch, 247 Foster, and 76 Carolyn Circle. Page 30, Bart. Of the minutes that I put together for you guys. All right.
Okay, Gomes, Trokey, Speakman.
Yeah.
Okay,
So Trokey goes to 4/5, 2022.
okay, how about Gomes?
Gomes is going to 315, and Speakman to 315.
Okay, motion to continue 76 Carolyn Circle until March 15th. Have I got a second?
315. I heard 515.
Second.
Hold on. It was 315, Bert, right?
I heard him say.
I said March 15th.
I heard 515.
I heard him say
I'm
March,
shot,
so
okay.
we're good.
Okay.
Okay, have I got a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. All right on that.
Okay, Susan?
Susan, yes.
All right,
Archie, yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick?
Rick's a yes.
Craig?
Craig, yes.
And Bert, yes.
Don't do that, Bert.
Okay, and 12 Branch Street, Bill?
That goes to April 5.
Motion to continue 12 Branch Street to April 5. I got a second?
Second.
Craig,
Second is Craig. Susan?
Susan, yes.
All right,
Archie, yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick,
Rick?
yes.
And Craig?
Craig, yes.
And Bert, yes.
okay, one more than.
And Speakman, 274 Foster Avenue, is that also March 5th? What is it?
March 15th, correct.
Continue to March 15th. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second is Art. Susan?
Yeah, Susan, yes.
Art?
Archie, yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick?
River Rick, yes.
Greg?
Craig, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell,
Did you say
yes.
River
Who's the
Rat?
second?
River
Who's
Rat.
the second on that one?
I'm not
Art.
sure.
All right, I got that. Okay, we're through that mess. So we can either go with the enforcement and deal with 53 Kent, or we can finish up the.
Let's do Kent. We've got
Yeah, you're on the
fellows
line.
sitting here.
Okay, Mr. Brodsky, Mr. Holmes, Mr. Brait, do you mind if we move you forward?
Please, Mr. Grafton.
Wonderful, we like that. Have at it.
It is very late. Good evening, everyone. I'm Adam Brodsky, and I represent Mr. Quaid. With me is Brad Holmes. To get to the punch, with the assistance of Mr. Grafton and Town Council, I believe we have a proposal that should be acceptable to the Commission. Sticking point for the restoration was the location of the conservation posts. And so we've agreed to relocate the northernmost conservation post essentially up against the client's seawall, which would delineate the full extent of the 50-foot inner buffer zone. And then we propose to revegetate that additional area in a similar fashion to the other areas that we propose to revegetate. So with those 2 changes, which are reflected in Brad's plans, we'd ask that the board please approve the restoration plan that would, and we could resolve this enforcement issue.
Bill, your comments?
Yeah, I think everything's been covered. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I gave you the January 18th, 2022 comments. I did say in an email to Mr. Holmes and Mr. Brodsky that Brad's note number 8 is not completely what we have in the enforcement order, so I just said those 2 things are associated. I think if we just achieve that, we're in good shape. And I think that it's a 5-year mitigation plan. If we're showing progress, Mr. Brait just simply comes back after a minimum of 3 years and determines whether or not he can be finished at 3 years versus 5. But that's up to the commission in 3 years.
And the markers are off the wall.
No, one is on the wall, and then there's 3 that are off the
3
wall.
off the wall, 1 on the wall.
Yeah, and that's been dealt with. I feel that, because Susan's point, I kind of followed the Karen laws here, and we moved the one that's the most northerly and it closed off the 35 and the 50, and so it achieved what Susan was saying before was we have to be at least at the 50 here and 75 over here, and you achieved that. So I kind of folded into that.
So Susan, you're satisfied?
Yes, I am. I think it looks great.
Karen, 50. Right.
Craig, I believe you were in on the discussion with town council, so you're good with this?
I am perfectly satisfied with the plan as it stands now.
Very good, thank you. Comments from other commissioners? I've forgotten now, how do we, I make a motion?
Oh, yeah,
accept
let
the
me see what we
enforcement
got.
order?
I think I wrote it up, Bert. I'm kind of the same way. I'm like punchy at this stage. I have a long motion here. I can just read it to you, okay? And then that way you're done. Is that okay if I make your motion for you? It's right here.
That's fine.
Yeah. Vote to approve the revised restoration plan dated January 13, 2022. The commission votes to approve the revised restoration plan dated January 31, 2022, prepared by Brad Holmes, PWS, and the enforcement order EO 21-05, requirements including 5 years of monitoring and reporting as per the Marshfield Conservation Commission schedule shall be followed throughout the enforcement timeline, and the planting shall be implemented during spring 2022 planting season. Brad, any problems with that?
I don't think so.
Beautiful. Okay, that's the motion.
I'll second.
That's Bert making the motion and Susan seconding.
I seconded.
That's pretty painless, huh?
Roll
That
call-
was painless.
Roll call vote. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Art, yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick?
Rick, yes?
Craig?
Craig, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, very good, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Braid.
Thank you, good night. Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
You loosen your tie now, Adam.
Okay, all right, so then we just got the COCs, and, Bert, you got a packet there that I printed up for you, and they start on about page, I don't know, maybe you can help me out a little bit here, 22 on the packets. And I think we can get through them pretty easy. I had to give you write-ups because some of these were painful. And the first one is the 88 Nantasket. We just had the lawyer here with the conservation markers.
Yeah, we finished that, didn't we?
Yeah, but he's gonna want this COC, and then I'm gonna end up chasing those markers. I don't wanna, I think, I personally feel you have to give him the COC at this stage, and it's an honor system on whoever to put those markers up, you know? I don't know how you wanna play that one, but they want their COC, so.
Issue of the COC with the provision that the markers are up.
Well,
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
okay, so what you could do is this,
Second.
is,
Oh, sorry.
you can't hold a thing like this hostage, I don't think.
If you ever go back there for any enforcement,
Yeah.
the markers should be there. If they-
Right, why don't we do this? Why don't we make this ongoing conditions, all right? That 3 conservation markers shall remain posted in perpetuity. Okay, just make that language like that. So I can throw that in and make this an ongoing condition. We'll throw that in, and if it doesn't get done, we can always go back to it, because what happened is somebody approved, looks like 10 people chatting, somebody approved the later permit, and the markers didn't stay, and who knows what happened with wetland delineation. That's spilled milk, but this one should stay now, so.
Well, what are you talking about, the tags for the wetland delineation?
Yeah, so no, not those.
Those are supposed to stay for
No,
35 years?
No, what's supposed to happen is the conservation markers on the posts are permanent. They'll stay.
Yeah, but those, nobody did those 30 years ago.
Yeah, I know, but that's what they're supposed to. Like Jay Wennemer told me, he thought that these things were still up and that, you know, they're permanent. And I'm like, no, they take them down, they break it, and they go over and stuff.
Let's figure it out and move on.
So here's what I'm saying to you.
Exactly.
We'll make ongoing conditions. We'll have 3 conservation markers, as per the conversation tonight, shall remain posted in perpetuity. And that's it. That's basically what happened.
We're good.
Okay, so make a motion to issue the COC to Sullivan.
With an ongoing conditions, as per what I said.
Second.
Second, Art, roll call, Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
Joe,
Art,
yes.
yes.
Joe? Rick? Craig?
Craig, yes.
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Just for the record, I think it's important the ongoing conditions be noted. Everybody here, as you want the ongoing conditions, right?
We seconded it and
We already
voted it.
voted on it.
All right, just want to make sure that, because it was kind of.
Way ahead of you, Bill.
Maybe I'm being too much. 3-1, conversation with attorney Okay. got it.
Okay, 62 Chandler, I believe you suggested that be tabled due to further information?
Yeah, I think we have to get in touch. We got the as-built, we just got it today, and it was minor. He gave MLS versus
Just
NAVD
table it.
88.
Table.
So it's gonna be tabled.
Okay, so it's tabled. So who was the second on 88?
Art.
Thank you. All right, so it's tabled. All right, and I may need some help on that one because we're gonna have to interact with some people that may not understand this. They're cutting, I believe, over there. So, all right.
Okay, next one is Nerger, Alex Road.
Did we vote on that first?
extension.
The last one? I'm losing it here. Did we get a second and
We
a?
we tabled it, so we have to vote to table?
Gotcha. Tabled. Okay.
Next one is extension for Ilex Road.
Right. I think you could just vote yes. I've given, Liz and I've given you
I
details.
agree. We'll vote to,
Yep.
issue extension to lot 663 Ilex Road. Should I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Everybody, huh?
Yeah.
We'll take Joe.
Craig?
Susan,
Susan?
Susan, she's closer to me, so I heard
Okay,
her.
Susan?
Susan, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Craig?
Greg, yes.
Thank you.
All right, another one?
Okay, Bibiano,
Yeah.
2160. This is the extinguishment of the conditions?
Yeah, he's got invalid order of conditions because they never did the work. That's the way you deal with these.
Okay, so I make a motion to extinguish the conditions for 2160 Ocean
I would
Street.
just vote to issue an invalid order of conditions certificate of compliance for SE 422402 2160 Ocean Street.
Okay, that's the
I'll
motion.
second that for Bert.
Joe will second it. Susan?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick?
Rick, yes.
Greg,
Craig?
yes.
And Bert, yes.
Well, great. All right, and then you got two DPWs coming up?
Okay, and these are extensions because,
Well, they're coming to the
Work
end of
is
their
ongoing.
terms. They're gonna be expiring on August 8th and October 8th, I believe. Oh, I got one here a little messed up.
Yep.
okay, I make a motion to extend 162 Bay Avenue. And
Right. to
Bryant's
August-
Lane, Middle Street. Are these both extended to the same date?
No, I made a mistake on the second one. It's actually October 8th on the second one. The
All right,
first-
then let's vote extension on 162 Bay Avenue. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second.
That's Rick.
Rick?
Susan, yes.
Susan? Art?
All right, yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick?
Rick, yes.
Craig?
You have
Greg,
anything
yes.
for us to sign?
Bert
Bill?
O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, next one goes out to October 8th, 2025.
Okay, make a motion to issue an extension on, to October 8th, what year?
2025.
2025 on Bryant's Lane, Middle Street, South Street, Brant Rock seawall repairs. If I get a second.
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 Second is Art. Susan?
Susan, yes.
Art?
All right, yes.
Joe, yes.
Joe?
Rick, yes.
Craig?
Greg, yes.
Bert O'Donnell, yes. And finally, 27 Old Beach Road, this is COC bill.
Correct, it's a
All good?
COC. Yeah, this is a closed one, complete certificate of compliance. This is the one that came back and Eric had found that they had exceeded the impervious. So they had a brand new permit, they went to the motions, they did everything right, and they're done.
Okay, make a motion to issue the COC. 27 Old Beach Road. Second?
Second.
Susan? Susan can vote.
Susan, yes.
Art?
All right, yes.
Joe?
Joe, yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Craig?
Greg, yes.
Bert, yes.
Gotta get done with this.
Make a motion to close the, actually, I don't think I have to make a motion. I think I can close the
Yeah,
hearing.
where does that come from? I'm a little nervous about that.
Robert's rules.
Yeah, you guys, because we have the motion coming up on the 7th. Are you really positive about that?
I've never done that.
I mean, it was tricky on Craig. I like that. It's very swift. But can we get that in writing? Because I'm from Missouri, you know? You got to show me.
I've got a copy of Robert's rules at home. I'll bring them next hearing.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Good night, everyone.
All right, so no
We're
motion.
not signing things
Statement
tonight.
made.
No
They can do it next week.
motion.
Next
Do it
week
the
should
next
be
week.
short.
Well, the next motion one is on the 7th, so let's be sure of that. I have read Robert's rules cover
None of
to
us
cover.
disagree.
And that is dull. Okay, well, everybody who's out there, thank you
Is
for
there
your
anything
time.
you need signatures on?
I do, and I'm gonna have you
Well,
stick around.
Do we need to do it
Could we do
before
it-
next week?
Okay, so, good night to everybody. The answer is yeah, if we could just stick it out. These people are
Let's
gonna.
go, Bill.
I can come in tomorrow.
Come on, Bill, pass them down then, man.
get it
I
done.
gotta get up at 4.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, I did what I could with this. I mean,
I know.
I tried to get the thing,
We'll split them, pack them back.
So,
Is that
well,
okay?
yes.
I tried, yeah, shut us off, please, thank you.